Council, come order. Call the roll.
Bernson-Check, Fierd, Galanter, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Ridley Thomas, Savorny, Schwax, Walters, Ferraro, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
The council will please come to order. This is a meeting of the City Council for the City of Los Angeles on the 10th day of August, 1999. There are 15 council districts in the city. The regular meeting days are Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We are currently being viewed by cable subscribers throughout the Los Angeles area on Channel 35, and we're also being monitored by council phone. The first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Fuhr moves, Ms. Goldberg second. If there's no objections, unanimous vote. Next item.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
If there's no objections, unanimous vote. Next item.
Item number 4 on the agenda, request to continue that matter until August 17th.
Is there any objection to continuing that item? Seeing none, that will be the order. Next item.
Item number 40 on the regular agenda, request to continue that matter till September 7th.
Is there any objections to that? Seeing none, that will be the order. Next item.
Item number 14 on the regular agenda is the mayor's interim appointment of George Rakis as general manager, Los Angeles Convention Center.
Is there any discussion on that, Mr. Hernandez?
Is this an extension of the, we're extending the appointment to 60 days? Okay.
Yeah.
Till November 7th?
This is an extension for 30 days.
We're going through interview processes just this week, so we were wondering if we could make it a 90-day extension till November 7th.
You want it until November 7th? All right. If there's any objections, we will continue this until, or extend this till November 7th. Prepare the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item number 1 on the regular agenda is a item notice for public hearing.
We have a Leonard Shapiro.
Yeah, Mr. President, also on item number 1, we'll be asking for a hearing date of September 7th and an amending motion to that effect.
Yes. Mr. Shapiro.
Mr. President and members of the City Council, item number 1 regards another building improvement district that the City Council intends to set up. Now, there's no question in my mind that building improvement districts, of which you have about 25 right now, have a definite purpose and can be used properly in the city of LA. But in my opinion, there's too many of these BIDs just being set up for the purpose of setting something up. The money's available to give to a consultant, and they set these things up, and they have a general idea that they want the area to be upgraded, and they assume the function of a chamber of commerce. But with taxing powers, and the taxing powers are used for security patrols, for cleaning up the areas, for planting trees, for straightening up grass, and making people do a lot of things that they should be doing anyhow. I say, but there's still a valid purpose for these BIDs to be set up. But in my opinion, I'd like some reports from some of these 25 BIDs that have already been set up. I'd like to see what they're actually doing outside of sweeping the streets and putting in a few trees and getting somebody some jobs to do somewhere. If they're doing something concrete, good, I'm all for them. If they're just marking time and spending public money, I'm not for them. I say that you're setting up the Chatsworth BID at the present time. It's a good idea. It may be a good idea. It may not be a good idea. I say use it and be aware that there's good and bad in every project that you set up, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you. You're a reporter. You ought to be able to discover all that information. Okay, and public hearing is continued, and the second hearing will be September 7th.
September 7th, Mr.
If there are no objections, that will be the order. Next item.
Mr. President, for purposes of an announcement I have to make, apparently there was a published hearing date that was scheduled for the River Station Industrial Project located in the cornfields for today. That hearing has been postponed till Friday, August 20th, during the council session.
I think so. Okay,
So I just needed to make that part of today's record, that
On
the
the-
hearing date.
on what item?
It was basically supposed to be, it was published in the newspapers that there would be a hearing scheduled for today on the River Station Industrial Park project located in the cornfields. And it was supposed to happen today's council agenda. That has been postponed until Friday, August 20th, during that day's council session. And apparently I had to make the announcement because it was in the papers.
Okay, then that will be so noted. All right, the next item.
Item 29, a request to continue that matter until September 8th.
If there's no objections, November 8th,
September 8th.
September 8th, that will be the order. Next item.
Item number 2 on the regular agenda is the item notice for public hearing.
Yeah, we have some people who want to be heard on this item. Melissa Laraco, Julian Salvador. You want to be heard on this item?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Julie Salvador, and I'm a student at UC Irvine, and I'm also a resident of San Pedro. I have come here today to dispute Best Way Market's application for a liquor license. I feel that another alcohol selling facility will be detrimental to our community. My main concern is not the appearance of our neighborhood, but simply the fact that Best Way Market is far more concerned about their personal profit rather than their commitment to convenience, as was so emphasized in other arguments. According to the Caldera bill, it clearly stipulates that ABC cannot issue a license in a high-crime area, an area with undue concentration of liquor licenses, or create a law enforcement problem. As you know, all three of these stipulations are violated in this area. The only exceptions are made under a matter of public convenience or necessity. In the described area, alcohol is hardly a necessity. Within a half-mile vicinity, there is a...
We have some quiet in the council chamber, please.
Sorry. Within a half-mile vicinity, there are 10 liquor selling facilities, and within a mile radius, there are 20 liquor selling facilities. Necessity, it seems, is a sorry excuse to open another liquor outlet. Convenience, it seems, is their main concern for this facility. But in their license applications, consumers are limited to purchase only certain types of alcohol and in certain types of packaging. Is this really convenience to their consumers when they're limited to what they're allowed to purchase? And in a matter of convenience, the facilitators of Best Way do not really care for the convenience of their consumers. Had this been their main concern, they would also supply other convenience items, such as pharmaceutical items, drugstore items, basic cosmetics, newsstand items, a delicacy, and a bakery, as found in other full-service markets. They're constantly comparing themselves to Vons and other big stores and yet they don't have the basic necessities which are found in other grocery stores. They are also not concerned about their consumers' needs. They received a letter grade of B, whereas the other grocers surrounding them have received a letter grade of A. Relative to the surrounding grocers, Best Value is not concerned about their consumers' welfare, nor the community. They're only concerned about the profit that they can make in this adventure.
Okay, now what is your name?
My name's Julie Salvador.
Okay, all right. Are you finished?
I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have, this is hard, name is awful hard to understand. Was there somebody else that wanted to be heard on this item besides, would you step forward? Give your name, please.
My name is Margaret Taylor, for the record, Bally Taylor Associates, 700 South Flower Street, 11th floor in Los Angeles. I do represent the applicant, if this is the appropriate time for me to respond. Basically, we have submitted a complete package to the City Council. This item was reviewed and approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Among those conditions in the Board of Zoning Appeals approval was hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and a limitation on the gross receipts of 5%, and as correctly testified to in the individual before me, limitations on the quantities and sizes of sale. That is a protection from the community, not a limitation from the community. In terms of public convenience and necessity, the concentration of licenses in this area are liquor stores. And it is good planning policy and policy on the part of a jurisdiction if beer and wine, specifically not full alcohol, is going to be made available to a community, it needs to be made available in a full-service market environment. And there are not full-service markets available in this vicinity. In terms of product comparison, as submitted with the application, Best Way Market at 10,000 square feet does provide many of the things, security guard on premises, fresh poultry, fish, beef, pork, hamburger, sausage, shellfish, vegetables, fruits, baby needs, specialty cheeses, and a full range of products that are available. We aren't 40,000 square feet, so we can't provide banking and pharmaceutical facilities, but we do provide foods and sundry goods, and as I said, we're only talking about 5% of the gross receipts for the store. It is a matter of respect to families and businesses that are shopping in the area to allow them to do it at a place that is well secured, well maintained, and protects the community. There are letters in the file from hundreds of people who support this request, postcards that were sent to the City Council. We greatly appreciate the council support, and I'm available if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to be heard in opposition?
President, my name is Robert Kirsty. I represent Philip Noe of Scheffler's Liquor Store. Turned in a card to the Sergeant at Arms.
Yes, I have that.
Thank you. Mr. President and members of the council, the concentration of liquor stores and liquor licenses in this area is of extreme concern to the people in that business because they must cooperate one with another to avoid the evils of a concentration of those kind of licenses. And the mere expansion of this to another facility where we already have 10 in a very small area does not increase the value of the community, but decreases the value of the community. The finding of the appeals board didn't mention that there are liquor licenses on Pacific right within the proximity of this store. This store is 111 Pacific. The Benton Market is just north at O'Farrell. The Jalisco Market is just north at Sepulveda. The Harbor Market is one block to the east. California Market is across the street. Mundo's Liquor is one block to the south. King's Liquor is across the street. La Cathedral Market is 2 blocks to the south. Scheffler's Liquor is over on Gaffey Street. You notice I said market. All of these markets that I'm talking about actually do serve the same need that most of the products in the applicant serves. Furthermore, the Ranchero market has meat, the Carniceria Guadalajara has meat, the 7-Eleven and the farm produce are within a short distance. There are other markets with meat, and all of these other markets will serve the same things. It seems important to the people that this not be given out just because there's an expansion to a market. And in the hearing, you noticed a statement that with a nice market going in like this, it should be a reward that they would get a beer and wine license. Zoning should not be a reward.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. We have other people who want to be heard. William Anderson. And Sharon Anderson.
Good morning. My name is William Anderson. I've lived in San Pedro for about 35 years. There's no need for another store at all with alcohol. First of all, I respect LAPD for showing up at the first meeting that I went to, and their choice was to deny it. They said there's no need. And basically, that's my biggest point right there. And the city said there's no need. So I don't see no reason for this to go any farther. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sharon Anderson. You agree with your father?
No, that's my husband.
Oh,
And yes, I do agree with them. I was born and raised in San Pedro. I worked on Mr. Savornich's campaign, and I know he grew up in San Pedro. I grew up in the projects, and for best way to want to be a full-service market, I don't see where beer and alcohol, where people eat beer and alcohol, and there's high crime rates, drugs, and it's not necessary. I live there, and all these people talking off papers and all that, I'm talking from my heart. I grew up there, I work with the kids there, and I try to steer them straight. But to add beer and wine to a supermarket, which I don't think is a supermarket, is not right. And Mr. Savornich, I hope that you hear me, because I still live in San Pedro, and that's my heart. And for this to go on is not right. Thank you.
okay, thank you. This hearing has gone on quite a while, so and some of these spellings I can't understand, so I don't know.
Excuse
What is
me,
your
may I
name?
speak? My name is Fred Ornelas.
What?
Fred Ornelas, and I live in San Pedro. I live a block away from King's Liquor Store. I used to be a gang counselor, drug counselor, and alcohol counselor at the Tobin Settlement House. And the section where we live is a very poor section. It's usually a lot of people that are on welfare. And we don't need another liquor store in this area. Excuse me, I'd like to correct these people. There are 12 liquor stores between 1st and 6th Street. In this neighborhood alone, 12 liquor stores. I went to this market, I couldn't even find a cold soda or Gatorade because they want to put a place to put liquor stores, but they don't want to have cold beverages. And there is a lot of gang members there, okay? And we don't need more liquor and alcohol in our neighborhoods. Okay, we have problems with graffiti. We have problems with young kids trying to get older people. I mean, I've been going to the store and I'll have young kids trying to come up to me and ask me to buy liquor for them, and I won't. So I think it's very inappropriate that we need another liquor store. 12 is enough. I think it's more than enough.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. That's all I
Thank
have
you.
to say.
Okay, we've had a couple other people, but I'm sure that they're in opposition, so we'll just close the public hearing. Item number 2 requires a motion.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Do you have a item there for Alexander to speak to the issue of item number 2?
Well, we've had plenty of public hearing.
But I came here to represent Mr. Solanke, the owner of Best Way Market.
What is your name?
My name is Rosenwald Alexander. I'm a senior member of the Economic Development Corporation for the
Okay,
City
well,
of
go
Garden.
ahead. We don't have any card from you.
Okay,
but,
well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to speak to the central theme of equal justice under the law. And I would not come here if I did not believe in Mr. Solanke. Here's a man that goes out of his way to bring some hope to the community and offer them good service at his Gardena market as well as his market in San Pedro. He has corrected a blighted area that's been blight in the city of San Pedro for over 12 years. And the federal government has put more money available for the improvement of local markets and communities than any other entity. And it seems to me that when one has met all the requirements, dotted all the I's and crossed the T's, he deserves a chance to continue his quest in fulfillment of the American dream. I beg your indulgence and your consideration in this matter, that justice will be done, and that you will concur with the evaluation of the appeals board and give Mr. Solanke the right to continue his quest for the American dream and offer good services in a community that needs it. If you notice, the larger supermarkets chains, Vons and Safeway, Alpha Beta, they are no longer building markets in the lower income areas. And this is a problem. Many senior citizens have to go 2 and 3 miles to shop for groceries. And this market, the establishment of this market, brings to San Pedro a unique service that the senior citizens and others with children can shop and receive the services they deserve. So I thank you very much for your time.
Okay, the public hearing is closed, and those cards will be made part of the file. Mr. Savornich?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Our office is interposing no objection in regards to this permit. However, we have heard very clearly some of the concerns of the neighbors, and we will be closely monitoring any problems that may occur. However, the applicant has met all the requirements, has gone through numerous hearings, but again, we are going to be closely monitoring any situation that may occur in regards to the granting of this permit at the site, and we will work closely with the Los Angeles Police Department to make sure that a situation does not occur that some people think it may, and I would like to move that we move forward.
Okay. Any further? Mr. Holden?
Right. Mr. President, members, I just want to rise to support Mr. Savornich. I know these are difficult times and tough decisions because you have good people on both sides of the issue. However, the law, we're restricted about what we can do within the law. We are limited. There are things we like to do sometime because of popular opinion, but we can't do because the law will not permit us to do so. So in this particular case, it's already been clarified that the applicant met all the legal requirements, and to do anything other than to grant the request would be to invite a lawsuit. And so, Mr. President, for that reason, and that reason alone, I'm going to support the recommendation of Mr. Savornich.
Okay, prepare the roll on item number 2. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
And that is approved. Mr. Padilla, do you have an introduction?
Hello. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to briefly acknowledge a group of students visiting us from the Consulate General of the Federal Republic of Germany. They're in the back of the room. If they can please rise. They are actually interning for the summer with the consulate office here in Los Angeles. As recent graduates interested in pursuing careers in public service, I wanted to welcome them to the City of Los Angeles and to City Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. All right, the next item.
Item number 3 is the item notice for public hearing.
Item number 3. Is there anybody that wants to be heard on item number 3? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Any discussion on this? Mr. Holden, there's a motion as required. Where's Mr. Holden? Well, let's hold it on the desk. Let's go to the next item.
Items number 5 through 13 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have been held.
I just want to point out that item number 4 has been continued until August 17th. There was somebody here that wanted to be.
We have a amending motion coming for item number 4.
I thought it was continued.
No, the department made a mistake. We didn't ask for it to be continued. We need to reconsider.
And we have to. Okay, Mr. Holden on item number 3.
I move it, Mr. President.
All right, any discussion? Prepare the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
That is approved. Item number 4, we had a request to continue, but that was a mistake, and so Mrs. Walters reconsiders for the purpose of acting on this item. Mrs. Walters, we do have somebody that wants to be heard. Chris Hicks. Chris Hicks.
To the President, to the members, my name is Chris Hicks. I live in Los Angeles, and I'd like for you to know how I ended up here today. It's not just a matter of me owing building and safety money. It goes deeper than this, and I'd like to briefly tell you what happened in this case. I'd like to preface this by saying there were a lot of allegations in this case, and I'm speaking to the allegations because the convictions were on specific items that I am not able to note. It is alleged that a Patrick Russo, armed with a fake quitclaim deed and a fake notary seal, transferred my property from my name to his name. And at the time, I was in college, and the property had 2 vacancies, and I had talked to the rent control people about having repairs. The person that I talked to said the amount of repairs that I had, I probably wouldn't get justified a rent increase for that amount, and I thought that I should board the place up after the last 2 tenants moved out, and when I finished school, go ahead and rehab. This was a big mistake. Allegedly, Patrick Russo was paying people to look for boarded up properties. He paid them for them, as in my case, and there were several other victims. They transferred the titles. He quickly went to Orange County and got loans from 3 different loan companies and put in tenants in this property quickly so that he could get the rest of his loans, and then he allegedly transferred the property from himself to himself because he was using Leon Crozier's name, one of his good friends. And at this point, I found out about the theft. When I found out about the theft, I went to all the public agencies, and the county helped me, the Department of Consumer Affairs, the District Attorney's Office, and at that time, Kenneth Hahn's office helped me. And with an aggressive investigation and a criminal trial, Mr. Russo was put away for 10 years, which is more than you usually get for this kind of crime, because of the extent of the crime. During the time that he was being pursued, he found my address in public records and sent death threats to my house, and I was ordered by the district attorney to move from my residence of 18 years and go into hiding. The first week, I rented a car and slept in a car. out of fear and then found some place to stay. After the trial, I had to go into a civil trial then to get the loans removed from the property. In the meantime, those people he put in the place would not move. When I tried to evict them, they burned the building on 2 separate occasions, and this is where building and safety got involved. I had tremendous legal fees or whatever going, court costs and all of this going, and building and safety was trying to notify me that I should do something about the property. There was, from my understanding, contracted people doing the title search. I had documents filed 3 times so that my address would be there. However, the notices went to Mr. Russo, who was in prison. So I'm asking, my point of being here is that I would like for you to support anything that comes about on the local, state, or federal level with regard to these illegal transfers of property, and also for you to support anything that would see that the contractors find information that they're paid to find, and that people like me are not victimized.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is closed. Did you want to respond, or you want Ms.? I know, but you want to let the department respond, or you want to speak? Huh? All right, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The department is here and will give us a chronology of this case and what happened. But I think that we really should emphasize that this man had bilked a lot of people in CD9 and other districts out of their property. And because of Ms. Hicks pursuing this, he is now in jail for 10 years. And I would ask the department at this point to go through the chronology and what they're suggesting occurred right now.
Well, ma'am, what happened was the gentleman's scheme, as it was he would file fraudulent quitclaim deeds on properties in your district and other districts, and then as showing the fraudulent deeds, he would then go out and take out massive loans on the properties and then walk away from them. He did that in Ms. Hicks' case and other cases as well. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans on her property. By the time that she became aware of what was going on and contacted the department, that was back in January of 1996, the department was already involved out at the property because of multiple complaints from the neighbors. Unfortunately for Ms. Hicks, though, she had to go through the legal process to recover ownership of the property, and by code, up until that happened, we were sending courtesy copies to her, but we didn't have good addresses and everything else. We had addresses of P.O. boxes in Los Angeles, and that's where we sent the notices. Why she didn't get them, we don't understand. Those were the addresses, mailing addresses that we had for her.
Did the letters come back?
Yes, ma'am, they did. I have them in the file.
So she indeed never was notified?
That's correct, because the letters came back as not being deliverable.
And I understand that it's proposed now for an assessment of $9,965 as opposed to the $13,000?
No, ma'am. We're recommending an assessment of $10,351.45, which represents the actual cost that the city incurred. This would be for what the department paid the contractors to do the work out at the property parcel, and also the administrative costs the department incurred for title reports, mailings, phone calls, that kind of costs.
You know, council members, I have put in an amendment here, Amendment 4A to this, that would waive $3,600 of the assessment cost and would be a total assessment left of $10,000. But when I listened to Ms. Hicks and the department's chronology, it makes me wonder if we really shouldn't waive more of this cost than the $3,600, because she never got the letters. You received the letters back, so she was not notified. And because of her efforts, this man is in prison. And he had taken out all these loans and harmed so many other people. Yeah, right. Mr. Wax suggests a $10,000 reward. I would like for you to take this back and see if we can't reduce this further from the $10,000. It seems to me that through no fault of her own, this person has been through a really horrible few years on this, and I was pushing as a council person. We had so many abandoned properties in CD9. I was pushing the departments to get them cleaned up, get them demolished, get them fenced and boarded up. So I take responsibility for that. And this one is a very special case, and I think that in the long run she has saved the city money. And I really think that instead of our acting on this amendment, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the department to take another week and see if we can't reduce this further.
Well, ma'am, at this point, we have waived all the administrative costs.
I
So
understand.
any portion of the remaining $10,000 that we waive will be a waiving of fees that the department has already paid the contractors. So if you want us to take a look at those fees then and waive portions of it, that's fine. We'll
Yes, I
sit
do.
down with the property owner and your staff, and then we'll take a look at those. But any waiving of those fees then will be basically monies already, that the city has already paid.
I
And those will be
understand that.
city monies that we'll be waiving.
I understand that, but this is a very, very special case.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Hernandez?
So this is continued 1 week.
Mr. President, members of the council, listening to the facts as presented by Ms. Walters and basically the fact that we believe there's some kind of an injustice, and at the same time listening to the department that is solely trying to recover the dollar figures that it has expended, I think what it calls is for some kind of an affirmative action on our part as a council, where we basically introduce a motion asking that a certain dollar figure be basically forgiven. And I've had that kind of situation, and I think that Ms. Walters, and I just want you to know, if you want to introduce such a motion, I'd be very supportive of it. And I think the department is trying to squeeze, I mean, not squeeze, but trying to basically reduce the amount that they charge as much as possible. But now they're at that phase where anything else is what they shelled out. And so it's going to take a motion on our part. And again, I'm just asking you to talk about the dollar figure that you want, and I'll be glad to second that motion so that we can basically try and provide some justice for the injustice that's been created.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hernandez. I really appreciate that, and I will be prepared to do that at next week's meeting, depending on what happens here with the department. And I'm not unmindful that the department did the work, and we were pushing them to do the work. But I want to see what they can come up with, and if I feel that more should be done, then I will ask you to second such a motion next week.
Okay, then we're going to continue this whole thing, including 4A?
Yes, 1 week.
Okay, continue 1 week. There's no objection, that will be the order. Next item.
Items number 5 through 13 on the regular agenda are items noticed, or items for which public hearings have been held.
All right, is there any special? 5. 13 is called special. And any other specials? Any other specials? If not, prepare the roll on 6 through 12. Tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Those are approved. Next item.
Items number 15 through 47, except for 29 and 40, which have already been acted on. 15 through 47.
Okay, we have a card on 16.
Can we hold 46 over until tomorrow, please?
31.
I'm sorry. 43, not 46. Hold 43 over.
47. Okay. Which one did you
43, please, hold over until tomorrow.
continue 43 one day? Is there any objections to that? Seeing none, that will be the order. Anybody want to be heard on any of the other items wait, let's see if we have a public hearing. We have 16 and 31 and 47 cards. Anybody else want to be heard on any of the other items? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Okay, any specials by council members? 22 and 23. Yeah, we'll call that special. Mr. Holden? 18 is called special. Any other specials? If not, prepare the roll on 15 through 47 with the exception of 16, 18, 22, 23, 27, 29 has already been acted on, 31, 40 has already been acted on, and 47. Prepare the roll on the balance. Tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Those are approved. Forthwith on 30.
Forthwith on 19.
And forthwith on 19. Okay, the next item.
Item number 5, called special by Councilmember Fuhr.
Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have a motion 5A, an amending motion on your desks. The reason for this is there had been a practice of extending contracts on a month-to-month basis, which inadvertently prevented the RFP processes from working as it should. This is the first such contract to have a deletion of that automatic month-to-month extension in it, and if we adopt 5A. And I would move that we adopt it to assure that in the future the RFP process works as it should, that we don't extend contracts month to month without giving them the scrutiny they're entitled to. So I urge we adopt 5 with 5A as amended.
Okay, any other discussion on this? We have 5A as an amendment. Any objections to the amendment? If not, then we have 5 as amended. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the votes.
14 eyes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item number 13, called special.
All right. We have a lot of people that want to be heard on 13, but...
I'd move a 10-minute hearing.
Is there any objection to the 10-minute public hearing? Okay, Madeline Janice Arpriccio.
Yeah, I will. I'm really busy.
Thank you. Madeline Janice Aparicio, Director of the Living Wage Coalition. And we're back here talking about a very minor but important amendment to the Worker Retention Ordinance. And I was actually one of the people that worked on the original Worker Retention Ordinance. It's actually now been 4 years, which, as you may recall, came about because of a crisis at LAX where 300 workers lost their jobs when contracts changed hands. Only requires a very simple thing, a 90-day transition period, very minimal job security. The amendment here is only touching on the very large financial assistance recipients, and it's a very simple amendment. Actually, as the city attorney will explain, we'll actually not add in any new companies, but simply expand the coverage within the companies that already receive that level of compensation. And the amendment still leaves intact a very, very large nonprofit exemption, which essentially exempts all nonprofits except for the biggest ones like USC. It's a very important amendment that's necessary to resolve the situation at USC and other similar situations at the very large companies. I just want to say we've been monitoring the implementation of worker retention over the past 4 years very closely with contracts and subsidies, and I can say unequivocally that the Worker Retention Ordinance has quietly provided very important minimal job security to thousands of workers, people that work for companies that contract with the city. That contracts change hands all the time. And the issue of workers losing their jobs is just simply not an issue anymore. I'll give you an example of the Ontario Airport. Last year, the 2 existing terminals closed down completely and 2 new terminals were opened. In the old days before worker retention, all those workers would have been on the street and they would have had no protection. With worker retention, that transition went so smoothly that none of you heard anything about it. Or another example, when there was a big controversy about the LAX parking last year that was before you, and there was one company suing another company, and they were going back and forth, the workers weren't down here because their jobs were protected. Because of the worker retention ordinance, that kept things running so smoothly that you didn't even hear about that aspect. So this is actually a very, very minor amendment, but important. And I just want to say that this legislation, it's really, they're living documents. They're things that we're committed to working with you on over the years, making them function as best as possible. So we're certainly willing. We hope that this would move forward today, but that if you would like to do any more study, look at any of the issues, we would really be committed to working with you over time, to looking at any other glitches or concerns in the future. So urge you to vote for this and no delay on this actual amendment.
Thank you. Well, we have Ms. Perez. Your name, please.
Yes, thank you. The Reverend Altagracia Perez. And I must say, I thank you for letting me address this body again. And I do sort of feel a little bit like the parable of the unjust judge, where the widow just kept coming back and coming back and coming back until she got justice. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. said that was actually a parable of hope, because if she had not been hopeful that the judge would finally see on her behalf, she wouldn't have kept coming back. For me, that's what this issue is about. I'm very hopeful about USC's power to continue to be a good neighbor in the community where I serve. But I think they sort of have lost their vision in terms of meeting their own criteria for their involvement in the community. Job instability is a real major factor in our communities. And one of the things that USC argues, I met recently with one of their administrators, one of the things that they argue is that they're concerned about moments like the civil unrest, the rioting that happened several years ago, and how it negatively impacts the university, how students don't want to go to that school, how their parents won't send them, and it affects them financially. Now, my concern is that that's a real good concern, but actually not providing job security for these workers is actually what leads to that kind of rioting. And so I want them to live up to their own concern. The truth is that one of the people, we're always telling young people that they don't want to pull their own weight, they don't want to work as hard as we used to, that it used to be okay to be a doorman and raise your family. Well, the truth was that was at a time when there was job security, where people could be baggers in a grocery store and still raise their kids and send them to college. That's no longer true. Nowadays, it seems that corporations can cry victim, can cry that they are the ones that are being affected disproportionately, and they are protected at the expense of the truly most vulnerable members of our society. My concern is that we be able to provide what seems to me, 90 days seems to be pretty minimal in terms of job security, but it allows people to know that they would at least have that period of time to find another job, to secure the kind of income that would keep them being functional, productive members of our society. My hope is that, as the councilman actually mentioned before, my honorable councilman mentioned that sometimes there are things you can do and things you can't. This is perfectly within your power to do. And we would not be here if it weren't for the university's inability to see how their own goals are being undermined by their refusal to cooperate. I ask you please to support this amendment and to take that role of leadership. I'd also like to present to you a letter that's been signed by members of the Assembly who have taken over the fast that continues to go on in this city in support of these workers, and they too are asking you to support this amendment. Thank you for your time.
Carmen Herrera.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Carmen Herrera. Tengo 10 años trabajando para USC. Trabajo en Carl Jr. Tengo 2 niñas, una de 7 y una de 3 años, ¿verdad?
Déjame traducir. Okay. My name is Carmen Herrera. I've been working at USC for 10 years. I work as a line server in Carl's Jr., which is on the USC campus. I have 2 children.
Yo sé la importancia que esta ley tiene para nosotros.
I know the importance that this law is very important to us.
Si yo llego a perder este trabajo, pierdo todos mis beneficios.
If I lose this job, I lose all of my benefits.
Pierdo mi trabajo, mi aseguranza, aseguranza médica y la esperanza de que un día vayan mis hijas a estudiar a USC.
I lose my job, my medical insurance, and the hope that I have that one day my daughters will be able to study at USC.
Que mis hijas vayan a estudiar algún día a USC es una de mis metas.
One of my long-term life goals is that my two daughters will be able to study at USC.
Yo sé que trabajando 15 años para USC, algún día podrán ir mis hijas a estudiar gratis.
I know that if I work 15 years for USC, one day my daughters will be able to study for free at USC.
Yo pienso que eso es como una herencia que yo les pudiera dejar.
That's something, an inheritance that I'm effectively giving my daughters.
Si pierdo mi trabajo, ¿qué voy a hacer?
If I lose my job, what am I going to do?
Perdería todo.
I would lose everything.
¿Cómo voy a pagar mi casa, los biles?
How am I going to pay for my house, my bills?
¿Tendría que agarrar welfare o desempleo medical para mis hijas?
I'd have to go and get welfare or unemployment or Medi-Cal for my children.
Y eso no está en mis pensamientos. Yo no quisiera llegar algún día a hacer eso.
And I can't conceive of that. I don't want to have to do that.
Lo único que yo quiero es mi trabajo.
The only thing that I want is my job.
Y lo justo para todos mis compañeros también. Gracias.
And justice for my coworkers as well. Thank you.
Okay, Anita Sussman, and then Judy Schwartz.
Good morning, President Ferraro, City Council members. I'm Judy Schwartz, Director of Legislative Affairs for the Central City Association, and thank you for letting me make this statement this morning. CCA would like to express its concern about recent recommendations of the Joint Personnel and Community and Economic Development Committee's report that seek to amend the Service Contract Workers Extension Ordinance. There's been no time allowed to study the economic impact of these proposed changes that will impact thousands of businesses and nonprofits in Los Angeles. We believe that a 90-day economic impact analysis is very important, and we'd like to see this done by the CLA and CAO. This will allow the City Council to ascertain the potential consequences for area businesses and other entities doing business in Los Angeles. We just are urging you to give this the necessary time for a complete analysis. We want to keep Los Angeles competitive and business-friendly. Thank you.
Ms. Sussman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Anita Zussman, the Vice President of Legislative Affairs at the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. I don't want to speak really to some of the points that have been made earlier. I just want to clarify so that everybody, including the business community, correctly understands exactly what's being voted on here today. In our mind, this is really a policy change. This is not simply whether or not USC should comply with the worker retention ordinance. The amendment, as we've been given, states that any organization receiving city funds in the amount of $100,000. That's very different from current law. Current law provides that a business or an organization receiving funds for economic development or job creation shall comply with the Service Workers Retention Ordinance. Any organization under this motion, any organization doing business with the city receiving $100,000 would now be subject to the ordinance. This is a momentous policy change. That means that any business getting gross receipts in the amount of $100,000 now must comply with the Workers' Retention Ordinance. This sends a very negative message to the business community, both in LA, outside LA, and around the nation, that Los Angeles is once again making this area more difficult and burdensome to do business in. It's extremely costly and will significantly change the method of doing business with the city of Los Angeles. So if the council does want to consider this momentous policy change, we would urge you to do it with very close study, very thoughtfully, and not taking a rash action without discussing it with many of the impacted parties. Thank you.
The 10 minutes is up, so the public hearing is closed. Mr. Wax? You, Ms. Goldberg?
Yeah, I believe I called it special. First of all, let me move an amendment to the report, which is to remove item 2, which would ask for the requirement that financial assistance for economic development or job growth be removed. We have had a number of conversations, and we don't really need to do that. Secondly, let me say that this is not about SC, although it was certainly precipitated by discussions around it, but it really is about what fine-tuning we need to be doing with our service worker retention ordinance. We discovered that a number of organizations that receive funds for economic development or job growth reach the $100,000 cumulatively in 1 year, but don't get it all at once. And so the most important change that we're making is that financial assistance for economic development or job growth, and we're leaving that limitation in, for economic development or job growth, we are not removing it, that the change be that it be in the definition that if it reaches 100,000 in any given year, that is what triggers the worker retention ordinance. In addition to which, once the funding has been expended, unfortunately, from my point of view, but nonetheless realistically, at that point the requirement does not continue. Finally, the only other change of importance or significance is that what happens when the trigger is reached is instead of just affecting the single contract, it affects all service worker contracts for that agency, organization, or business that are within the city of Los Angeles, not other places, not far afield. Now, what the effect of this is to do the following. It would say that cumulative in 1 year, $100,000, you don't have to get it all in one shot. That's the biggest change. And secondly, if you do change that, the worker retention ordinance applies just to contracts by that organization within the city of Los Angeles. Those are the big changes. Why do we need to do this? Well, I think we need to do this for a number of reasons. First of all, because anybody with a contract for job growth or financial assistance that's getting $100,000, but it takes 12 years for them to get it, should not be off the hook simply because it took them 12 months to get it instead of getting it in one check. That to me made no sense as a distinction. They're going to get it in the same year. It's a distinction without a difference, and we need to close the loophole. Secondly, we are talking about the notion of trying, however, to stabilize the workforce in the city of Los Angeles for those people who are working for an agency or an institution or a business that receives a large amount, $100,000 in a year, of financial assistance in 1 year. We're saying that the stability that's provided by giving people 90 days carryover is not too much to ask in return for doing that. Now, 90 days is all that we're talking about. Worker retention ordinance does not require that you permanently keep the employee. It does require you offer them a permanent job, but under state law, once you have a permanent job, if you decide to downsize or you decide to change how you do things, unfortunately, there are no protections for these workers that go beyond 90 days. They can be fired anyway. But the stability that we've seen at Ontario Airport, the stability that we've seen at LAX, by giving people that 90 days has meant that many employers, new employers, because they've gotten the new contract, look and say, oh my goodness, these are fine people, I don't have to retrain people, I can just keep the folks I have, and that's fine. There are exemptions. If you are a nonprofit with less than $5 million, you're not included. If your financial assistance was not for economic growth or job development, economic development or job growth, I said that backwards, you're not included. It only lasts as long as the contract or the financial assistance lasts. This is not a huge change, but it is an important change nonetheless. It will affect some private sector groups that get financial assistance from the City of Los Angeles. It'll affect those that are our own contractors that we contract with for job growth and economic development. And I believe it is a modest change, but an important one. And I think that there are questions about how many people it will cover. As near as we can tell, we don't know that because it's not very many, I can tell you that, because we aren't changing the definition to broaden it. We are only closing a loophole that said you had to get the $100,000 all at once. And the one big change that was really going to broaden it, that was raised by one of the speakers, we are, by my motion, eliminating. We will leave it narrowed to economic development and job growth. And with that, I would move that we amend the report to eliminate the second recommendation, which was to remove that. And with that, we've narrowed it to the same definition we have now.
Thank you. Mr. Wax.
Well, I think Ms. Goldberg acted very prudently there, and with the amendment, I would have supported the other, but I think that you've taken away some of the doubt that may have existed. Members of the council, it's my understanding that there will be a motion coming in asking for an economic impact study, and of course I would support that because I have no problem with finding out the facts. But I want to move ahead today on approving this recommendation to have the city attorney draft these ordinances making these changes. I think that what we will find while that study is underway is that the worker retention ordinance has not caused any of the problems that many people fear, and therefore a study will actually work towards supporting the reasons why we did this in the first place. But again, I'm happy to have the study because I think we need to know what we're doing. But I see this as doing something. Interestingly enough, however, this council has not often asked for those studies when it has given much, much bigger subsidies to all kinds of businesses that have come in here asking for money. And if it weren't for the study, that's now going on at UCLA that's trying to take a look at what we get for the money that we often give. And the money I'm talking about is hundreds of millions of dollars at times for huge projects around this city because people have enough clout and enough lobbyists and all to come in here and get it. You know, and what we're asking for here is 90 days job security so people can prove themselves so they have to be out on the street in turmoil. You know, I mean, I don't even know how we can compare one with the other. To me, this is part of an ongoing effort for economic justice in the city, which finds itself in the living wage ordinance, which finds itself in the worker retention ordinance, which is asking people to become constructive members of society, to work hard, to support their families, and to have decent living, working conditions under which they can be constructive members of society. All of us benefit from that. The benefit from that is so enormous that how could we, I don't even know how we could be debating it at this point. If there are unintended consequences that would cause more harm than good, let's find them. I have no problem with finding out the truth, but I suspect that you will find that the benefit to the city in terms of economic stability, job security, and good working conditions and an incentive for people to work, support their families is going to be a far greater benefit than any of the consequences it may show. And I would love to make a policy in here that you make every other business that comes in here for huge subsidies, whether it's sports facilities and arenas and coliseums and trizicons and you name it, make them go through the same economic analysis you're going to make these people now go through to ask for 90 days of job security. It would be a very, very interesting contrast.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. President, members of the council, first, I do concur this is a policy, from my perspective, enhancement. And what we need to do is make sure the report reflects that. And so I just ask that we delete any reference to USC in regards to the report, and we maintain the focus on the policy. And again, I think that USC as an institution of higher learning basically is one of the places that we would ask that serve as a role model, and it was that institution's change of direction that brought this to our attention. There are reports that are coming out on an ongoing basis, and we're hearing about them more and more, that are dealing with economic realities of Los Angeles. And the gap that continues to widen, even though we're having an economic boom, between the haves and the have-nots. And the reality that housing is no longer affordable for many people, and that job security is at risk. Because what we're basically proposing is economic systems that are inclusive of the people who are doing the work. And that's why I think we as a city are leading a movement to, one, ask that there be a consideration as to what it takes to live in Los Angeles, be part of a wage structure, and at the same time backing that movement by saying anybody who gets public funds from this city comply with that ordinance. And we are also saying that any time you change contractors and you're doing business with this city, that you basically give the workers who had that job the same opportunity to retain the same job and maintain the quality of life you've learned to depend on because of your employment. And some of the examples we saw here is people who had 10, 15, 16 years working at SC, basically because of a system of contracting work out, we're losing that job security. We're losing the benefits that they had learned to depend on and believed in because of a subcontractor who might choose to change the personnel simply because it's cheaper labor. And he doesn't have to respect the continuity and the time invested by that employee. So from my perspective, this is an enhancement of a position the City of Los Angeles is taking in trying to deal with the gap between the haves and the have-nots and provide a greater quality of life for all Angelinos. And so hopefully we can get a unanimous vote at this time. Thank you. And I don't know if I heard a second to my motion, but Ms. Goldberg said she didn't have any problem with deleting USC from the report.
Okay, there's no objections to deleting the reference to USC. And Mr. Savornich.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. We have on the desk item 13A, which I would like to ask to be an amendment that, in addition to our action today to ask the city attorney to draft the ordinances, that the report be amended to say as follows, that the city attorney, as the office begins drafting amendments to SCWRO, the City of Los Angeles Chief Legislative Analyst and the City Administrative Officer be directed to analyze and report back on the impact, economic, job creation, and otherwise, that the proposed SCWRO amendments would have on businesses, nonprofits, and other organizations doing business in the City of Los Angeles, that the CLA and the CAO list the specific businesses and community organizations concurrently not covered by the SCWRO that would be covered should such amendments be implemented by ordinance, and that this report be brought back to council at the same time that the city attorney's ordinances are scheduled for council consideration. And I offer this as an amendment on the desk. The other thing that I would like to mention, Mr. President, members of the council, we have to remember also is that the beginning of the service contractor worker retention ordinance began as a discussion on this council to limit this ordinance to the Department of Airports. And that was the original discussion in regards to this ordinance. And shortly thereafter, we chose to take it citywide. What we see here before us was this issue beginning at USC, and now this expanding to citywide also. And so I think we need to take that into context. I think that the amendment that we have brought forward, both that Councilwoman Goldberg has done, omitting section number 2 of the report, is a step in the right direction, and I believe item number 13A that does nothing except request information back concurrently when the ordinances are provided by the city attorney is another step in the right direction, and I would like to ask your support of the amendment.
Mrs. Chick.
Yes, I rise in support of what is before us today, colleagues, and have supported and continue to support the worker retention ordinance because I see it as something that is positive not only for the workers and the employees in the city of Los Angeles, but quite frankly, is a positive for the employees as well. That the track record and history that we now have had before us shows that not only does this ordinance not cause problems, but it smooths out transition periods for employers, for companies when they are changing contracts, and allows them, in fact, to keep workers who are experienced, who have a track record, who have a history, who don't need to be retrained, and helps a company that's taking over a contract with the city or getting financial aid from the city. I do have one question in regards to Mr. Zvornich's motion, which seems to be just in the interest of good governance for us to be thoughtful and to understand the positive impacts as well as any potential flaws, that I understand what is before us is in fact not changing the definition of who is impacted by the worker retention ordinance. It's keeping the definition and the threshold of the $100,000 in financial assistance consistent. So I question only the one part of that amendment, and that is to list all of the businesses and nonprofits that are not covered currently but would be covered. Am I correct, Mr. Merkin, that these changes would not cause other nonprofits to be brought in?
That is correct. What you have is, to the extent that there is, within the definition, additional coverage here, you're not including any additional businesses, any additional nonprofits. There are those who receive financial assistance over what's proposed to be a cumulative $100,000 threshold, who are going to have a broader obligation. But the nonprofits, you have to understand, there's an exemption for them for less than $5 million annual revenues. So most nonprofits are not going to be covered. Those businesses and the very large nonprofits that receive this level of city financial assistance for economic development or job growth are the ones who are going to experience the broader obligation as a result of receiving that city financial assistance.
Okay, then Mr. Zvornich is a friendly amendment to your amendment, and then I would be happy to second yours if you haven't received one, is to delete the words that the CLA and CAO list the specific businesses and community organizations currently not covered by the SCWRO that would be covered should such amendments be implemented, based on the explanation Mr. Merkin just gave us.
No, I would like to have that remain.
I'm sorry?
I would like to have that remain in the motion.
Okay, then my amendment to your amendment is seconded by Ms. Goldberg.
The chair recognizes Councilman Holden.
Mr. President, members, I'm not going to offer you a political decision at all. I'm not a candidate for mayor. I'm not a candidate for city attorney. I'm not even announced my candidacy for controller yet. Oh, okay, but I will tell you this, that each of you know that we don't not just have a city policy, but we have a national policy. Minimum wage all across the nation. And when we first advocated fair wages, known as minimum wage for workers, low-income workers, there were a lot of opposition on the part of companies. They were all saying no. And some people went to jail demonstrating and fighting for the right to have minimum wages. And then the next thing came with the livable wage, which we now have locally. And soon I believe that nationwide that will be the case as well. It just seems hard for me to believe that an employee would work for any company for 30 plus years, and I met some of them, and then be suddenly told you don't have a job anymore because you're going to be contracted out, and the new contractor could fire you on the spot. I don't understand that. What kind of hard, I mean, how cold can they be? I mean, I don't understand that at all. Now, I got to tell you, we're not going to mention USC because of city policy, but I like the way they play football. And I like the way UCLA play basketball. And I can understand why Joe Wax would go after USC because he went to UCLA.
He was student body president.
Yeah, you know, he never said anything nice about USC. But the fact of the matter is that in this particular case, I'm going to join him somewhat and say that I'm going to support this motion. I wish it didn't come before us. I would only hope that they could go back to the status quo and not contract those jobs out. After all, the lady spoke to her daughter. There was a lady met with me in my office, says, my daughter can get an education as long as I work for USC. But if I don't work for USC anymore, that's gone. All the
She'll have to go to UCLA.
And UCLA don't give them anything, you know, there. But all the rights and privileges and benefits are lost, and there are many. Mr. President, members, you know, I don't know if it's officially to say it at this time, but it seemed like to me like a guy of your stature who's so well respected in this city, don't say yes or no, but you maybe and a couple other people could sit down and talk to the parties at interest and see if we can get this resolved without any additional confrontation. I would hope that that could be worked out. I can't think of anybody who's better qualified to pick up the phone and say hello than my president, John Ferrari. Give him a big hand too, by the way.
Mr. Holden, your time is up, and if you knew how many hours I've spent on this case,
I know
you'd
you,
understand.
look, that's why I mentioned, Mr. President, you get a hand for what time you already spent on it and the time you'll spend on it.
Ms. Sikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the amendment and the changes proposed, and I had some questions. My concern with the amendment is that very often we see a request to study something before we act as an effort to delay or defer. Mr. Merkin, how long would it be for you just to turn around and draft the ordinance as is requested by this action?
I can have it back to you a week from today.
Okay, and I would like to ask the CLA and CAO as to how long it would take them to do the study, because I would not like to have an inordinate delay.
Might be an all-time record for the city attorney.
Mr. Deaton, what would the time be for you to get a report back to the council as per Mr. Savornich's request?
I'm assuming something, 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. Okay, Mr. Fujioka, do you concur with that?
30 days, 4 weeks.
Okay. Inasmuch as we have, I think, a fairly speedy opportunity of getting a report back, if we ask that the ordinance be brought back to us in no later than 30 days, with the expectation that the report to be done is done at that time, then I think we aren't losing too much time. But I don't want this to be an inordinate study, an inordinate delay. I think the basic merit of the request, when one looks without mentioning any entity, if the city is awarding as much as millions of dollars to an organization to be pursuing contracts, most of those contracts of which are bid fairly under RFPs, that it is reasonable for the city to hold people receiving that award and receiving that money to a threshold that we ourselves would use in dealing with our own workers. I think, as has been indicated over the years, that livable wage and worker retention have been part of the city's lingo. There were lots of concerns about it, lots of protestations about the bad effect it was going to have on doing business in the city, and I don't think there has been any indication that all those dire warnings have come to pass. In fact, just the opposite. There's been smooth labor relations, smooth, aggressive bidding on yet more contracts, and those who might have been fearful of it, I think, have been not only pleasantly surprised, but receiving the benefit as well. And I think taking it this extra step is something we should do, and I would only agree with the effort to study it if there is not an inordinate delay, and I don't believe 30 days is disproportionate. As long as it comes back on the council, that would be shortly after we ourselves are gone on a break, and come back and enact this in September.
Mr. Burnson?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, this is not a labor versus business type of issue. This is an issue of fairness and equity. You know, we live in a different world today. We've seen these huge corporations come in and gobble up all the banks, and what happens to the workers there? We've seen corporations being taken over, and people who devoted a lifetime to working there, all of a sudden, they're out of a job. Now, you know, I don't know what the economic impact of this is going to be. I suspect it's not going to be great because it just means that they're going to have to wait 90 days, even if they bring their own crew in. But in the meantime, they have an opportunity to see the quality and the experience of the people that are there. Now, there is a solution to some of this. The people, if they don't want to abide by this, they don't have to take the city's money. It's very simple, you know? It's very simple. You don't want to abide by this, don't take the money. I've seen so much of this, and I don't view this as being an anti-business issue. I think that anybody who works on a job and has been there for any period of time is entitled to at least have some measure of security, and this is not much. You're just asking that they be kept on for 90 days. That's all it really is, and if you stop and think, for people that have worked for 30 years, even that's not a heck of a lot. So I don't know what the economic impact. I'll support the amendment. I don't see a big problem with the amendment, but I intend to vote for the ordinance. And I must tell you that, in all due respect, Joel, just because UCLA is a 501c, a nonprofit, if they're contracting out, I think some of these people who fall within that category ought to abide by the same rules. It's only fairness. So I think when this thing comes back, maybe we ought to look at that aspect of it. And I want to just comment that people don't realize that how much time Mr. Ferraro's put in trying to work some of these things out between the university and the employees, and I want to commend him for it. But that's why he's a Hall of Famer. Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Fuhr?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess, Joel, once the student body president, always the representative of UCLA. Huh? I'm going to support the direction that the city attorney draft the ordinance, and I'm going to support the Amendment 13A. I only rise with one question, and actually, I think Ron, Mr. Deaton, I actually have a question I'd like to ask, and either you or the CAO can answer it, I think. And as you walk there, the question is simply this. Ms. Chick rose to offer an amendment, actually deletion, to 13A that would get rid of the reference to a listing of the businesses to be affected. I think, without putting words in anybody's mouth, that the premise of the recommendation that Ms. Chick made was that it doesn't make a difference, that it's not information that will be relevant because there's no additional scope of businesses to be covered by this. I just want to understand, as I choose to vote one way or the other on this, is that the case? Is there, what if any difference does 13A have with or without that provision?
Well, my understanding is that obviously the reason for the ordinance is there are firms currently who are not impacted, and this ordinance would impact those firms. And this would be the identification of those organizations in which this ordinance would be applicable to. What has happened is that if it didn't impact other people, you wouldn't have to pass the ordinance. I mean, you'd already, I think I'm right on that.
Well, let me, here's what I understand.
I'm not, in other words, if it applied to everybody and passing the ordinance didn't have any impact, then you wouldn't have any other.
Fred, here, given Ron's answer, let me just, again, I want to be sure I understand. I think there are two major issues before us. One is, in terms of the content of the change. One is, and this may be major or not, but do you expand the number of businesses covered because you change the definition from $1,000 as $100,000 as a one-shot deal versus $100,000 in the aggregate? That's one issue. And a separate issue is, for those businesses that would be covered, as you put it, the obligations change, because not only does the worker retention ordinance apply to the contract they have with the city, but to all their other employees as well.
Yes.
Both service workers. Aren't both those, are both those things going on? Do I get it or
Yeah,
not?
both of those things are going on, because by having a cumulative requirement, you're now going to be bringing in potentially some other businesses that you don't now cover, because it's cumulative within a year rather than 100,000 at a time. The second change is we still need to ascertain exactly who you're talking about. The nonprofits over with budgets in excess of $5 million a year, those businesses who are receiving this, not because of the question of whether or not they're covered, they're already covered, but I take it you want to know who's going to have this broader obligation, the citywide obligation.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the clarification. I wanted to understand what's going on, and I think you've done that.
All right. Ms. Galanter.
I have no objections to having the study. I do have objections to delaying the implementation of the ordinance we're going to instruct you to draft. We had a discussion, many of you will recall, we had a very elaborate discussion recently about some proposed amendments and some concerns about impacts relating to the ordinance drafting the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. And the council majority very emphatically said, we can't delay it, we can have all the studies you want, that we have a committee to do that afterwards. Seems to me that the issue here is somewhat similar. We all agree that we want I think we all agree that we want this ordinance to do what it's intended to do, to protect people who are in the kind of situation that these workers find themselves today. And it seems to me there's no reason to delay giving that protection. We also, as several people have already commented, believe that any economic impact study will show that the economic impact is either negligible or positive because of the improved smoothness in labor relations. But if you all want to document that, I'm all for going out and doing a study and seeing if it's true. But I do not support using the documentation as an excuse to delay getting this change made and getting this show on the road here.
Mr. Pacheco.
Council President and members of City Council, I rise in support of the motion. I always assumed when I read the ordinance that it was cumulative for within the year, so I appreciate the clarity that the motion brings. And also appreciate the amendment and what its efforts are to give us some information. I do not want to see the amendment viewed as any delay tactic, because I think that's unnecessary. We should move with this as quickly as possible. So I do rise in support of the makers of the motions and the amendments.
Ms. Goldberg.
Yes, I have no problem with the amendment part that talks about wanting an impact study. I would move that the final two lines include, and that this report be brought back to the council in 30 days, period. Because I don't want to delay the ordinance. They said they can do it in 30 days, that would be fine, and we have a second. The problem I'm having with the part that Ms. Chick amended, which is a list of specific businesses and community organizations, is that I don't think there's any reasonable way to know that. I think we'd be better saying the types of businesses that would be included, and I'll tell you why. If you're a nonprofit over $5 million, but you never apply for financial assistance, you won't be on the list. If you apply for financial assistance, but it's not for economic development or job growth, you won't be on the list. But there's no way to know now who might decide to do that, particularly we have a whole bunch of welfare to work funds. So if we were to say the types, I don't have any objection with the information, I just think it's an undoable request as it's currently framed. If we would say the types of businesses and organizations, then we could get a list of those that are over the $5 million threshold. They may never apply, so it may never affect them, but I don't have any objection to gathering that information. If you ask who specifically would it affect right now, probably nobody, or not many immediately, because first of all, they have to have a contract that's coming up to add this to. We never go back and add them retrospectively. It has to have a contract coming up. And or we have no idea as welfare to work, which will be an area of job growth issues. We have no idea who's going to apply. So that's my concern, is I don't want to delay this study by trying to get information that isn't there, or maybe we'll just have a list that says these are the types of ones. So I would just move that we say that the CLA and the CAO list the types of businesses and community organizations not covered that would be covered. And then I can support the amendment if we change it to in 30 days and we change it to the types of businesses, then I could support the amendment as amendment. So I get a second for that small change? Thank you.
Mr. Savornich?
Well, maybe the question to the CLA or the CAO is that sentence to which there seems to be concern that the CLA and the CAO list the specific businesses and community organizations currently not covered by the SCWRO that would be covered by such amendments be implemented. Is that not achievable within the timeline, within the 30 days?
I understand, if I understand Councilwoman Goldberg's concern, is that it takes a snapshot, basically, of that point in time of what businesses would be impacted by.
I don't have a problem with the types of businesses either.
I mean, the specific businesses
What
that
I
be
would like to know
impacted
is,
by.
are there specific businesses currently that are receiving funding that would fall under this ordinance that could be affected? And I don't have a problem with the types, but I want to make sure is that even though this is narrowly focused, are there currently contractors that we can get back who they are within 30 days that wouldn't delay this either? Is that information that is not obtainable within 30 days?
Perhaps I could address that, Councilmember Savornich. I think what Councilmember Goldberg is referring to is essentially this amendment would be prospective only. It's not as if we have particular financial assistance recipients. We would now tell them, by the way, do you understand there's this different obligation? This is only for the future. And so the question is, in the future, what financial assistance recipients will there be?
I understand. Is there any...
We can look to the past to help give us a guide to what the future might look like.
Are there any right now that currently have a contract in place to which this would affect, or does not affect them?
We could give you a list of businesses.
No, well, the question is, will this contract apply to current contractors?
No.
Only
No.
prospective ones?
Prospective ones.
Okay. Would you be able to give us some type of idea that would not delay the ordinance on some of the types of businesses that would be affected?
We could give you a list of those businesses or organizations that currently have contracts that if those contracts were prospective, this ordinance would be applicable to.
As well as the types of businesses in the future, without delaying this ordinance? Okay. That's fine. Also, the question that I do have is that Councilwoman Goldberg suggested that the last two sentences be delayed. Jackie, also, did that mean the sentence that this report be brought back to the council at the same time that the city attorney's ordinances are scheduled for council consideration?
Yes,
Did you ask that be?
I'm asking that it read, then this report be brought to council brought back to council in 30 days, and not connect the two.
Okay, is the ordinance coming back before this report then?
Yes,
So we would be voting on the ordinance prior to this information coming forward?
yes.
Then I
That's what
can't-
I'm requesting.
So we would be voting on the ordinance without the information as requested in the amendment?
That's correct.
Then I would ask for a no vote on that.
Mr. Wax?
You're voting on to draft up the ordinance. The request is to draft the ordinance. and it can come back and get them both back at the same time, really quick.
No, but
Yeah.
the ordinance could be ready next week.
Oh, well, okay. Then you can argue next week that you should wait until you get that in. Let me just make a couple of points here. First of all, I think you ought to list whatever, facts are facts. If it turns out that there are 10 groups, then I want to know them. If it turns out there's only one group, I'm still not afraid legally, because we're setting a policy, and anyone who comes in the future would be subject to it. So even if there were only one right now, it still isn't discriminatory, because it's in fact a policy that on the very next day could be applied to someone else if they came in and wanted a grant. So I don't have any problem knowing what the facts are as requested by the motion, and I don't have any problem in the validity of the ordinance, because I know that it is a policy we'll set, and anyone who comes forward prospectively wanting $100,000 or more for economic development grants will be subjected to this. Secondly, I think I don't know why this wouldn't apply to UCLA or anyone else. The fact is, although you can't impose it on them as a state group, you can say you don't get the grant unless you comply with it, and then in effect, you do apply it across the board. And I think that this should apply whether it's a private school or a public school or in any other businesses that relate to this. So I don't see why it can't be uniformly applied if, in fact, what you're simply saying is you will not get a grant in the future unless you agree to abide by this. Let me say, in something that I think will surprise a lot of people about SC as such. I think this should apply, of course, to SC and anyone else. But in the course of talking to the people at SC, I must say that on the one side, I've been pretty amazed at how good some of the provisions are, the benefits that SC has offered its own employees. I wish a lot of other employers in Los Angeles would offer the benefits that I have been told, if assuming what I've been told is true, are in fact offered there. Because of that record, I told them I simply couldn't understand then why they would not want to show the good faith of doing this. But I don't think it should be overlooked, the fact that they have, for the people who are currently employees, there a benefit package that probably is far better than a lot of other businesses in town and ought to be looked at. So while I really feel they ought to accept this and that we have every right to impose this, I don't want to not recognize what they have already done for the people who are employed there, because it's pretty impressive. And again, I think we should apply this across the board. The policy here knows there can't be reasons to selectively apply to one versus the other, and I think that we ought to do that and can do that. I do believe that we can get this information quickly, and we should be able to find a way to bring them concurrently. I don't see why we can't do that, but not delay it at the same time.
Thank you, Mr.
Anyway, this is a good discussion we've had. I think it's clarified a lot of points and misconceptions that people from the outside may have had about what this is and
Thank you,
isn't
Mr.
doing.
Ward. Mrs. Chick?
I'll move the previous question.
Okay. That's a good idea. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
Noes. 10 ayes, 4 noes.
That is approved. Okay, we have, first of all, there's Mr. Hernandez made a motion to delete any reference to the University of Southern California. There's no objections to that?
Yeah, that's the highest voting.
Yeah. And next, Mr. Hernandez moved that any reference specifically to USC be deleted, because this applies across the board. And the next motion is Mr. Savornich's motion?
No, the next motion is a verbal motion by Ms. Goldberg to omit recommendation number 2 from the report recommendations.
Is there any objections to deleting item 2? Seeing none. Okay, now we have Mr. Savornich's motion.
As amended twice.
And I withdrew my amendment.
Jackie has an amendment.
What is your amendment, Ms.?
Was that the report be brought back to council within 30 days. The effect of passing my amendment is to disconnect the ordinance coming back from the report coming back.
Okay. Okay.
For an
All
aye
right.
vote.
Point of order.
What is your point?
also, and correct me if I'm wrong, colleague, that it also is to delete the last two sentences on item 13A, is that correct? Last two lines?
It just eliminates the last line, but it would read now, I want to read it the way it would read. After the semicolon, it would read, "and that this report be brought back to council within 30 days, period." So it does delete that they have to be scheduled on the same time. And that's my motion. I can't argue it because debate has ended. So I'm just
Mr. President?
stating my motion.
Then I would ask for no vote.
Mr. President, as the seconder of the motion, I wanted to be sure I understood. I seconded Ms. Goldberg's motion on the premise that 30 days was the time when they both came back together. Now, if that is not the point, I'm sure there are others who would then second the motion. But I want to be clear. The mere passage of 13 with 30 days should not in itself preclude the two from going together. There need to be a separate action to prevent them from coming together, I would think. Is that correct?
Okay. All right, we have Mr. Savornich's motion as amended.
I'd like to split the question then, Mr. President.
No, I think the question is, do they come back together or not?
If we're splitting let me just understand, if we're splitting the question, as Mr. Savornich asked, I want to know what we're splitting from what.
Amendment to my amendment.
So you want to, we first want to vote
Trying to
on
bring it all
Ms.
back at the
Goldberg's
same time.
amendment to your amendment. If that passes, then we vote on yours as amended. If it fails, okay. Is that okay, John? So we first vote on her amendment.
Yes, okay.
So ask for a no vote.
Ask for an aye vote.
Prepare the roll.
Ask for an aye vote.
Tabulate the vote.
7 ayes, 7 noes.
That failed. Now we have Mr. Savornich's motion as
Ask for an aye vote.
as amended.
Aye vote.
Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Yeah, that is approved. Let's show Ms. Goldberg as a no vote. Okay, now we have, what do we have before us now?
13.
We have 13 as amended.
All right, prepare the roll.
Aye vote.
Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved.
Now that's democracy.
The next item.
Item number 16, called special.
Okay, we have a card from Leonard Shapiro.
Mr. President and council members, after that lengthy discussion on the USC item, we're going to discuss an ordinance to allow Mello-Roos financing to take place at some community facilities, District Number 3, Cascade Business Park and Golf Course.
Well, let's see.
I don't even know where this place is. It's not listed on the agenda, and it's not listed in the backup material. I know it's within the city limits someplace, but I think the Mello-Roos financing, bond facilities, has been misused in a lot of ways. And this looks like it's being misused here, the recommendation to be misused right now. Why should the city council approve this type of financing, which is supposed to be used for communities, for the developments that have a community impact, and it's a big benefit to the community? I see very little use that a private golf course and a private business park could be. It could be, I don't know, but from what I see in here, I see no benefit to the city. Yet they're coming to you for Mello-Roos financing. The Mello-Roos financing, by the way, was just recently used, or it's being attempted to be used, in the Playa Vista, in the Playa del Rey area where you had the DreamWorks coming in, and the DreamWorks is now gone, and the development is still taking place. When you put in Mello-Roos financing, you're allowing people who are buying property in there to be taxed, the special tax that'll continue for 20 or 30 years. And before you put in the special tax, which people don't really know, when they come to buy, they don't know why it's in there, you have to be in a position where you can say, yes, it's necessary that we had to give them this Mello-Roos financing because it's a community project and it's doing good for the city of LA. All I'm trying to tell you right now is that I think this should be looked at with a jaundiced eye, Mr. President.
Okay, Mr. John Desai. Mr. Hernandez, you want to be heard on this?
Yeah, Mr. President, there was two Mello-Roos items on today's agenda. One was dealing with Pershing Square, and this one is dealing with a different entity. And what I wanted to provide some clarity is, basically, what happens is a lot of projects, in order for them to be developed, require a tremendous amount of infrastructure work. It's no different than when the city was first being established and built out. What the state legislation has allowed to happen is for the property owners involved in the district to agree to assess themselves for a period of time so that they could pay for those infrastructure changes. It's not something that's coming out of the rest of the taxpayers, it's coming out of the development project itself. And any property owner that was to in the future purchase that property would be well aware of the assessment and the property taxes that are being paid. So this is a vehicle that's used for purposes of enhancement of projects, and primarily in the infrastructure arena. Now, Pershing Square, which was item 15 that we approved today, what happened is the property owners that surrounded Pershing Square basically agreed to assess themselves in order to develop that park, because they felt that the enhancement of the park would also improve the property values that immediately surrounded it. And so it did not require any city funds. They basically agreed to assess themselves, and that's how Pershing Square got improved to the status that it's at today. So again, Mello-Roos is a tool that's out there. It's a state tool. It's not a city tool. We participate in the assessment district, and I just kind of wanted to explain it a little bit more because it basically is saving taxpayers' money and developing the infrastructures that need to be developed.
Mr. Burnson?
Yes, members of the council, I think Mr. Hernandez gave a pretty good explanation, but let me just say that this particular project is an industrial project involving a number of manufacturers and businesses that we were able to bring into the Sylmar area and provide a beautiful business park, as well as a golf course that will be a public golf course. So there are no homes involved in this particular Mello-Roos, this particular one. But I must tell you that without the ability to get funding for these types of things, some of these projects would not happen. And ultimately, the people who benefit from them are the ones that pay for it anyway, whether it's done to reimburse the developer or whether it's done to pay off the bonds. It's a means of financing. And obviously, anybody, particularly in these categories, knows when they enter into a contract to buy something or to build something, they know what the encumbrances are and what they're going to be expected to pay. And they've already received the benefits up front. So I urge approval of this. I think this is a very important, particularly this one, because it's established a lot of jobs and is going to establish a beautiful golf course that it will be open to the public at reasonable prices. So I would urge an aye vote on this.
We have item 16 before us, and Mr. Burnson moves. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item number 18, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden, you call 18 special?
Mr. President, members, I'm just looking at the ordinance where we are going to ask the county to put in the tax rolls of the property owners within the city of Los Angeles an assessment of 0.5735 cents per each 100 gross square footage area, up to 500. Mr. President, I think that's kind of inequity with that. Up to 500 mean that you're going to hit just a certain group of people, and the very, very rich won't even feel the pinch. So maybe somebody can explain this to me, why the assessments values are set as proposed. Anybody here to tell us? No reports? Mr. President, can anybody tell us about this?
I don't know.
And maybe we can hold it on the table until someone comes in. Because I wonder why they put a cap at 500 square feet of an area to be assessed.
It was, the public safety waived it, and so did Budget and Finance.
I know, but you know, just hitting a certain group of people, it'll pinch the people on fixed income. If you just reduce the amount of assessed value, maybe to 1/10 cents or whatever, and stretch it out over a larger square area, you hit more people in the higher income brackets, and less, you know, it's not too much of a burden on the poor and the retired and the seniors and the shut-in, Mr. President.
Who brought this motion in originally? Do you have, Mr. Deaton, do you have any?
I'm Mr. Deaton, he's Mr. Holden.
Well, you both look like you're from Seal Beach, so I can't tell the difference.
Yes, I believe what this is each year on bonds that you've already got outstanding, you have to establish the tax rate in order to meet the debt service, as provided for in the bond issue that when we went out to the vote of the people. So all this is establishing the tax rate in order to.
I know what it's doing, but why don't you make it up to 2,000 square feet instead of?
Because that was in what was, those kinds of criteria were in the original bond.
I never saw anything like that in original bond.
If I could just intervene here for a second. Gail Weingart, Assistant City Attorney. We get the information from the county. The county sends us all the information on this. We then draft the ordinance and send it back. This is based on what was passed, the proposition that was passed by the voters, I think in '92. And we do this every year, and it's based on the information that we're sent from the county on how it's figured.
Well, what do we send to the county to have the county send to us what a proposed ordinance should look like in terms of assess?
Councilman Holden, the issue with the 500 square feet, every property in the city is levied an assessment. It was approved by the voters. The 500 square feet applies to vacant property. If there is no improvements on the property, it is assumed that they have 500 square feet. So if you have 300,000 square feet, you're taxed on the 300,000 square feet.
You're not taxed on 500?
No.
Or you go up to 300,000?
You're taxed on your actual square feet. If you have vacant property, you're taxed at 500.
But you're asking for a predetermined amount of money per year in order to pay off the bond. I mean, how much are we asking for in the first year, calendar year?
Again, this is just to cover the debt service on the bonds.
I know. What is that debt?
The debt is the 911 system that the voters approved.
How much money are we talking about? They approved it over and over again, and we squandered the money before when they voted for the bond measures. 911 was included in that. It never got done. Now there's something extra. Well, you just go ahead and vote for it. I'll get some information from you later because you don't have the answer today. Would you come to my office maybe and we talk about it?
You want to continue this for?
Yeah, one day, Mr. President.
One day?
Sure.
And Jerry, will you explain it to him?
I'd be happy to, sure.
You're going to be in your office here or at the marina? Okay, item number 18 will be continued one day. The next item?
Item number 23, called special.
22.
Excuse me, item number 22, called.
Ms. Goldberg, you called 22 and 23 special.
Yeah, it's really, is there someone here from Rec and Parks? It's really the same question that I've been asking on the other ones, since this seems to be Prop A and Prop K.
Is there anybody here from?
He's coming.
No, I don't care.
It seems to me that both 22 and 23, I'll really ask the questions for both of them. They are about mechanical engineering and about geotechnical engineering. Now, it seems to me that geotechnical engineering and mechanical engineering are probably going to be needed over and over again, aren't they?
Yes, that's correct.
For the next 25 years, or 23, we've done two, I think.
Virtually every.
So why are we doing this by contract instead of by actually putting on a geotechnical engineer or a mechanical engineer, and then supplementing those positions as you need it, maybe if it gets to be a heavier schedule.
Well,
Talk right into the microphone, because no one will hear you otherwise.
the department's budget right now precludes hiring additional employees, especially architectural and engineering employees.
Well, $300,000, $600,000 in 6 years is $100,000. You mean that would preclude from hiring somebody, $100,000 a year, from hiring a geotechnical engineer?
Well, personnel issues are really not in my area, and
Okay.
I can't
Is
answer
there,
that.
is the need for this so immediate that we couldn't just send these two to Personnel Committee and look at this whole issue together? Or you?
I
yeah.
think it's okay to send them to personnel.
Okay.
They really do need to be extended in the very near future to pay these
When's
contractors.
when's the deadline?
There's no absolute.
Okay. All right. Mr. President, I'd like to ask that 22 and 23 go to personnel, and I promise you they'll go on the very next agenda. We're having a meeting this week, but they go on the very next agenda, because I just want to get these issues ferreted out. Some obviously are going to continue to be contracts because they're periodic, and others really are ongoing, and I don't know which are which, and I don't want to do it here. But we'll ferret it out if those two can go to committee. I promise it'll be on the next agenda. We'll get it
Okay,
right
if there's
back.
no objections, 22 and 23 will go to
Thank you.
Personnel Committee. Next item.
Item number 27 contains 2 reports on 1 file. A motion is required.
Mr. Fuhrer? We have public safety, Laura, on item 27. Laura, 27, we have we have 2 committee reports on this. I think they can both be approved. Are you familiar with?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I don't have the report before me. Was it LAPD and what was the second, public safety, and what was the second report?
Budget and Finance.
Could you hold us on the desk for a moment and let me check?
All right, we'll hold this on the desk. Next item.
Item number 31, called special.
We have a card, Mr. Shapiro, I believe. Mr. Shapiro?
Mr. President, are we talking on 31? Yeah. Item 31 concerns the funding for the Department of General Services for $12 million. For those of you who haven't read the backup material of this $12 million, actually, the total appropriation of $12 million is being done for Pico Garnier Block, is taking the bulk of the money. And in this connection, since the Department of General Services and the Public Works Bureau of Accounting is involved, I think there's some important subjects that people got to keep in mind. I had a visit from a man who worked for the department for about 20 years, and he was telling me the lackadaisical, don't give a damn attitude that was prevalent throughout the department. And he backed it up with material to me, where, for one example, he gave $133 million in accounts receivable that's owed by to the Bureau of Accounting, reconciliation of receivables as of January 31st. And in this connection, also, there's a lot of work that has to be studied in here. They were talking about doing the B work permit, digging up the streets, which is an important thing that's happening in the city of L.A., because we know we have the second worst city streets in the United States. It costs $1,325 over the lifetime of a car for repairs directly attributable to street shortcomings. But on this breaking up the street, I have before me a report for the years 1998-1999, of which $3 million worth of work was done. And of this $3 million worth, $1.5 million, or half of it, was done by the Department of Water and Power, who refuses to pay their bills on time. They say they have their only reason for not paying the bills, and they want to build up the receivables. I suggest again, on this item, which we're discussing, about $12 million, and it's also backed up by an audit report showing how the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing in the Bureau of Engineering and the Contract Administration Department. And as I spoke to the man for 2 hours, and it's time that somebody took a look at this. Why should $133 million worth of receivables that nobody knows where it is or where it came from be allowed to stay on the city books, Mr. President?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hernandez, you want to be heard on 31?
Yes, Mr. President. Is there anybody here from staff in regards to this item?
Yeah, here comes somebody.
Mr. Deaton's here, and I don't know who the other gentleman is.
Mr. Greenwald from the City Administrative Office.
Is there anybody from General Services here? And it's because I need to confess something to some of my colleagues here.
Fixing the elevators.
Yeah, I received a letter from one of our...
Yeah, they're in the elevator trying to get here.
Yeah. I received a letter from the Department of Transportation inviting me to their dispatch center on Saticoy. And I see that there's $100,000 of this project, $300,000 allocated. And I went there, and you know, there is construction going on. The intent was to show me their dispatch center, but I was really... I was dismayed at what I saw. I walked in, there's construction going on, I walk in the door and there's a letter that says, an arrow says DOT upstairs. I walk upstairs, but it wasn't the dispatch center, it was where the officers are working out of. That area had been done, but when you're walking around, you're moving around all this construction debris. The warehouse was really in bad shape, and I was disappointed because I knew it was a city project. And so I just wanted to know who oversees these construction projects and how it is that they're providing for the safety of the public when it's a facility where the public could go to, and how they're providing for the safety of the employees. But I had to ask the question because I was there and I saw it myself. And I've never seen a city project in that kind of disarray during the construction phases. So I just wanted to point it out, and maybe Mr. Deaton or...
We'll discuss it with General Services and Engineering and get back to you with their
And it's the
report.
Saticoy site, and I went there to see what their dispatch center worked like, and it was really disappointing to see what was happening during these construction phases. And so I want to support this overall package. I just think that we have to have some oversight on those other issues.
Continue this?
No, approve this, and we will report back on the safety conditions at Saticoy, et cetera.
Okay, prepare the roll on that. Tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Members of the council, item 27, Ms. Mistakowski would like that to go to the Public Safety Committee. If there's no objections, we'll send that to the Public Safety Committee. Seeing none, that will be the order. Next item.
Item number 47, called special.
Item 47, we have Leonard Shapiro wants to be heard, and Richard Robinson.
Go ahead.
We haven't got a request to continue.
Item number 47 concerns a motion that's presented by Laura Chick and seconded by John Ferraro about the city of LA and the Professional National Football League football team coming in on the latest results, that I move that a free market-driven commerce enthusiastically support a plan for a privately funded professional football team in LA. We've been reading plenty about this in the newspapers, and I think it's time that the city council took a stand on this, that there's no use in giving money to billionaires who are in the business basically to make money, and secondarily to work it out with the community. And there were several big articles on this thing that we got to understand, from what I read about it, that LA is on the focal point of what's happening with professional sports in the United States. Everybody is watching what we're doing in here. The National Football League unequivocally stated they're pulling out of LA and they're going to Houston because their owners can't make enough money here. They can only make more money if you give them money, give them public money, either from here, the county, or the state. And if you can, then they can make more money, they can have the money, they can buy star players and have a successful team. But they're mostly concerned with making money for themselves. I think possibly in the long run, Nate Holden may be right when he says, bring the Oakland Raiders back here. They're unhappy where they are, maybe that's the way to go. But to take a new team, put it in here, and give them public money is completely uncalled for. And I'm glad Laura Chick brought this motion up because I support it enthusiastically. Mr. President.
I like him.
Mr. President, members of council, if the Raiders return to Los Angeles, will this funding argument continue? Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Mrs. Chick?
Yes, colleagues, there's no doubt in my mind that an NFL team belongs back in the city of Los Angeles and in the Coliseum. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we would not have the improvements we have today in the Exposition Park area, nor would we have ever had the intense interest of the NFL in returning, were it not for the efforts and leadership of our colleague, Mr. Mark Ridley Thomas. We have everything that it takes to bring a team back. We have the fans, we have the marketplace, we have the facility, and we have private sector key leadership that's willing to come to the post and put together an attractive financial package. What we don't have, what we shouldn't have, are precious and scarce taxpayer dollars as part of this deal. All of us sitting here today are painfully aware of the unmet needs in the public that are crying out for the expenditure of those taxpayer dollars. Infrastructure needs, public safety facility needs, transportation needs, and on and on. Paying the NFL does not meet any of those pressing public needs. You have before you today a resolution that, in fact, I introduced quietly last week, and while that was a quiet entry of a motion, I feel very strongly that it is time to send a clear, definitive, and firm message to the NFL. Our colleague, Mr. Ridley Thomas, contacted me this morning and asked for this to be held over until next Tuesday. And I expressed to him what I have just said to you. There comes a time when it is important, in a calm way, not in a grandstanding way, but in a calm and clear way, to send a definitive message. And I believe that today is that day. It's time for the NFL to hear, we want them back, the Coliseum is the right place for them to be back, but not on the backs of the public with scarce taxpayer dollars. Several years ago, Mr. Ridley Thomas reminded me that the council, and I was one of those members, went on record supporting the use of public funds to create a parking facility at the Coliseum. The way that the NFL has behaved, the greed, the insistence on enormous millions and millions of dollars of public funds being handed over, has moved me to change my position. And I ask for your support in sending the message that is before you in my resolution. Thank you.
Ms. Sikowski?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also talked to Councilmember Ridley Thomas this morning, and I think inasmuch as Ms. Chick has acknowledged that he is perhaps the one colleague in our chamber, in addition to our president, who has worked earnestly and with the premise that taxpayer dollars ought not to go forward on this in any kind of general fund way. And in fact, the council has passed that motion, that we do honor his request to continue this for 1 week. I understand it's 1 week and a day, actually. It would be until next week, Wednesday. And I so move. I think the debate is appropriate, but I think that we should at least honor that request to have this continue for 1 week. Our forces are in place. I don't think the city forces have budged from our action that was taken last October. Clearly, other levels of interest at the state and others are saying very firmly to the NFL what we want them to say. But I think to have this full debate while Councilmember Ridley Thomas is here makes some sense, and that's my motion.
Mr. Wax?
Well, I've spoken to Mr. Ridley Thomas a number of times, and there's nothing he could ever say to me that could in any way change my mind from the cold, hard facts that we shouldn't be using tax money for professional sports facilities without a vote of the people. And whether he says that, whether it's today, next week, I mean, I've been saying that for years, and my position hasn't changed on that. So I'm prepared to vote on it today. It's a message that I think is important to be sent, and a lot can happen in the next 8 days in terms of negotiation. I will say, one thing I will say, however, to Ms. Chick, and I think it's important, what we're doing is we're sending a message. But in fact, knowing the way they work, they'll drive a truck through some of this language. In other words, and so I think what we have to really do is just basically say it straight out. When we say, for example, and let me give you examples, we say no city funds for the purchase, relocation, or expansion. Well, it won't come for the purchase, relocation, or expansion. It'll come from site preparation, it'll come from infrastructure, it'll come from facility, and things like that. It won't come in funds that you'll start getting things like, no net cost, public responsibility instead of subsidy, all of which will in essence be code words again for some form of it. But I think that knowing that, we still have an opportunity to hold to the intent of this, and that is that any deal be put before the voters before it's approved. If not, it's going to be put, I can guarantee you, it's going to be put before the voters one way or the other. That I can assure you. But I don't think you can reword it now to cover every possibility that they could come up with to try to get around it. What we need to be simply saying is, this is what we intend: no public money without a vote of the people, and we're going to oppose the public funds, and we're going to submit it to the voters before there is any. And then they can word it any way they want, as long as we stick to that resolve. Again, ultimately it won't be on them, it'll be on our resolve, Laura. It's going to be on our resolve whether 8 of us will hold firm to that. Because I've just watched the dynamic of this, and I don't blame them. They'll try to get what they can get. That's what people do. It'll ultimately be up to us to scrutinize very carefully what they're asking for and hold to the resolve of the intent and the spirit of this motion, which I applaud you for putting in and wholeheartedly support. But I assure you that if we only stick to this language, it'll be very easy for them to try to come around it and achieve the same thing. So as long as we stick to our resolve and to our intent of what we mean by this ordinance, by this motion today, we'll be okay. And in the end, that'll be our test. But if we don't, I can assure you it will go on the ballot anyway.
Mr. Hernandez.
Members of the council, we could delay action on this item, but I don't think it would accomplish anything, simply because I think it's important that all the people involved in the current discussion take into account the realities of that discussion. I just wanted to point out, I walked into the council chamber saying that the most likely council member who people would think played high school football would be Laura Chick. The reality is that was one of her fantasies. I think that we're really missing the boat on this whole issue, and again, I know Councilman Ridley Thomas is not present, but the Coliseum is alive and functioning. Exposition Park is happening, and I mentioned that if you were to ask my constituents if they'd like tickets to the Super Bowl or the World Cup, they would choose the World Cup anytime. And what the NFL represents today is not what is happening in our society. And the tribulations they're trying to put us as a city to come to the city makes no sense. I think that we should be embracing what is inclusive and what is happening in Los Angeles. And I think soccer is one of those events. I think that the Coliseum is the kind of place where people want to participate in world-class sports. And I think that we need to start embracing that facility for that type of activity. And again, to be dealing with a bunch of billionaires or millionaires who basically could care less about the public interest and just care about their pocketbooks makes no sense to me at all. I am formally declaring my change of position in regards to bringing an NFL team to Los Angeles. I no longer feel a necessity to do that. And my actions as a voting member of this council will continue in that direction.
Okay, Mr. Burnson?
Yes, members of the council, let's get one thing straight. Professional sports today are not a sport. They are a business, a very expensive, multi-million-dollar business. And to ask the taxpayers of our city to put up any money for any purpose would be a travesty, particularly even if you want to talk about job creation. The jobs we're talking about are athletes that make millions of dollars a year, and the owners make millions of dollars a year. I want to commend Mr. Ridley Thomas. I think he's done a very, very good job. He's tried very hard to try to bring all the pieces together, and I commend him for that. But under no circumstances can I now or ever support any public funds being used to entice any pro team here. We did that. We did the same thing with the center, and we did not make sure that any public taxpayer funds were being used for that, and I think that should be our policy. I might want to add, there's only one thing worse. You know, we also found out something. We found out we could get along without a professional football team. The city's still here. We're still functioning, and we don't have the Rams and we don't have the Raiders. So, you know, just maybe they'll get the message that if they want to be in what my opinion is the top sports community in the country, that they're going to have to dig into their pockets and invest their own money. They can't ask the taxpayers to do that. And I might add, and there's only one thing worse than not having an NFL team in Los Angeles, and that would be having Al Davis and the Raiders come back.
Al sends his best regards through Nate Holden. Rita Walters, Mrs. Walters.
Thank you, Mr. President. All I can say is religion came a little late, but I'm glad it came. And I'm pleased that some of you are changing your minds. Better late than never. And maybe with that, we can all hold firm against any type of public subsidy. I read in the paper this morning or yesterday that they want a subsidy, want us to float some bonds, and they'll pay it off through whatever. I think we have to take a firm stand that says not one red cent. Not now, not ever, not again. And I hope you'll stick to it.
Goldberg.
Well, I agree with all of the sentiment that has been expressed here. However, I would like to know, when is Mr. Ridley Thomas next scheduled in council? Okay. I would support the delay, not because it's going to affect the outcome, in my opinion, or certainly that it will affect my vote, but I do think that because we do have one colleague for whom this has been especially important, that courtesy ought to be granted him. He didn't call my office and ask me. I haven't spoken to him, but I did hear from two of you that he had. So I just think that that's a small thing to ask, and I don't think it'll change the outcome. It certainly isn't going to change my vote. I've long been a football fan. My family finds that horrifying. What can I tell you? I grew up with it, and I like the game. But I've never thought that the whole business of holding literally a gun to the head of cities and saying, you have to put in X dollars of public funds or we won't come, my view to that is, don't come, and always has been. But that doesn't mean I don't like the sport and don't enjoy watching it. And frankly, I would like to have a team back, but I don't think that the way to do that is the way that the NFL is proceeding. And obviously, from their point of view, they can live without Los Angeles, fine, so be it. Those of us who like watching it on television don't have to worry about blackouts. We see all the games now, so that's okay as far as I'm concerned. But the point of all this, though, is that I do think that somehow or another, I hope they wake up and get the message that this is a very large market, and there are a lot of people who would come to the games, but they do not wish to have it come at gunpoint saying that their public dollars have to go to this when there are so many other needs that are really pressing.
We should point out that there are people that are willing to do all the things that they want.
Exactly.
Except they want more public money for
Exactly,
whatever
exactly.
stupid
So they've
reason.
got people in the private sector stepping up to the plate, and it's ridiculous that they don't want to do it.
Mr. Galanter?
You know, let's have a little reality check here. Is anyone actually, other than the NFL, actually proposing to give them any public money? I haven't heard anybody propose it. I'm certainly not going to propose it. I don't think Mr. Ridley Thomas is proposing it. Nobody's proposing it. So I don't think we have to worry so much about that. I think that we ought to continue this until Mr. Ridley Thomas is here, because this is his issue. And it'll be just as ripe the day he comes back as it is today, because you all know the NFL isn't going to change its mind. Why it is that they think public money is critical when private money is the same money and buys just as much and is already on the table, I don't understand. I don't understand how their minds work. They've been playing too much football. What can I tell you? But nobody is seriously proposing it. It's not a question of anybody's resolve weakening. It's a question of whether we're going to exclude Mr. Ridley Thomas, who's been working on this issue more than anybody except Mr. Ferraro, who's been working on it for a long time, and I just don't think it's fair to do that. So I'm going to support the continuance, and then I'm going to support the motion when it comes back, like everybody else here.
Mr. Holden?
Mr. President, you don't have to ever vote on this, ever. And the NFL will not give you an expansion team with or without public funds. It's a sham. You know, they mentioned Al Davis's name a few times around here, Mr. Burnson. And after there's been an attempt to negotiate with the NFL, I must tell you that, in my view, the second coming of Al Davis is going to make him look like a saint. Some will welcome him with open arms. Well, next time he'll speak to you, Hal, and then you won't be so mad at him. He didn't mean it. It was. I know the difference. It's a personal difference. He's going to talk to you, and it's going to be all right. I know. He should never have done that. That's the bad part. He's changed. But I will tell you this: that it has always been my view, and I think I've said it over again. This is nobody's personal issue. The NFL never intended to do anything but what they're doing now, and that is to really talk to our negotiators, but never come to any agreement. During the discussion, I said from time to time, when are they going to talk money? They talk Carson Stadium. They talk Exposition Park, the Coliseum. They talk various designs. I like this design, I don't like that design. I said, wait until they start talking about money, and let's see what happens. And the first time they start putting money on the table, then the negotiators turn to the public funds, turn for public funds, whether it be state or local, say, now we need your help. Remind me of a guy who promoted boxing years ago, and he went to the local people to get some money to help him promote this championship boxing match. And when the fight was over, they tried to collect their money. He says, well, you know, I never use my money. I always use the people's money. If you don't know that, you better wake up. And I learned that early on. But I also learned another thing when we voted for the Staples Center. I didn't vote for it. You're talking about floating a bond. You should have gotten the taxpayers to vote on it at that time. I think Mr. Wax put something out there, and he got the taxpayers got started, got an initiative started, and then he dropped it. But I got to tell you, you should have continued with that. You know why? Because the convention center is going to lose money, the bed tax will not support it, and the gap will be made up from general funds. The gap will be generated because of the fact that the major parking to support the convention center, which is a $1.2 billion debt, has been taken away and given to the Staples Center. And so therefore, they will not be as competitive in the future as they have in the past for conventions that will be coming to Los Angeles. And I'm saying to you, the taxpayers will pay for the mistake on a 14-to-1 vote that we made, and I voted no.
You had
It's up to the taxpayers.
You had another vote too, Mr. Fuhr. 13-2.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, when I was growing up, like so many kids, I used to aspire to be a professional ball player. I used to listen to baseball games on the radio, having played Little League, and come home and pitch along with Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. I had to use different arms when I did that, though, because we used to listen to the Rams games, and then go out and play touch football and pretend I was Roman Gabriel and all that. Those were days when to aspire to be a professional athlete was to want to be something quite extraordinary, to be not only an exceptional athlete, but an exceptional person and really serve as an example. And what's happened, of course, is that greed and avarice have become the defining adjectives of professional sports rather than teamwork or sportsmanship. We all know that. And so all of us, I think, have very strong views about the way the NFL has handled itself in these so-called negotiations, with enormous amounts of hard work and good faith being evidenced by leaders in Los Angeles. Among those leaders, someone who's really worked tenaciously on this has been Mark. And notwithstanding where each of us might be coming from on the issue, I think just as we want the best attributes to define professional sports, we also want the best ones to define the way we deliberate. And, you know, when Hal was unable to be here for the discussion of the neighborhood council's issue, the council enabled the vote to take place after he was here. We continued it in order for that to take place. And we should do the same thing here out of respect for Mark and his work. Let's continue to define the way we handle ourselves in the best possible way, and I think that would be to continue it as Ms. Mizikowski has moved.
Mrs. Chick?
Yes, in response, Mr. Wax, to your concern about the NFL, I think you said driving a truck through it. I think the NFL can only drive a truck through an opening that the city council gives it. And it is very much the intent of my resolution, and it certainly sounds as though it has, whether it's today or next Tuesday, the full support of all members at least present here. I also wanted to point out that while it doesn't list every possible way that the NFL could ask for public dollars, it does clearly state that any expenditure of public funds would have to go for a vote before the voters. And then finally, in terms of why do we have to do this and has anyone offered public dollars, they have been both mentioned informally, but in fact, this council, as of right now, is officially on record expressing its commitment to act as the conduit for the issuance of tax-exempt and taxable bonds financed by project revenues in order to minimize the costs associated with this project. So in my mind, there's very much a reason to deliver this message, which is a very different message from the one we were engaged in several years ago. I will be voting to act today. As the introducer of the resolution last week, I would have appreciated having been contacted earlier in terms of delaying it, but I share my colleagues' respect for Mr. Ridley Thomas, who, as I initiated in the discussion, has been the driving force to try to get the NFL to come back in a sensible way, and hopefully they will still do that. So colleagues, I ask your support for this resolution, and I will be voting to act on it today. Thank you.
Just two comments I want to make. One with Mr. Hernandez said, and he was, I think, completely on target, although I wouldn't limit it just to soccer. What it is, but soccer clearly is a critical element of that. Anyone who watched 90,000 people, you know, at the Rose Bowl, watching the U.S. women's soccer team, I don't know that I've ever seen a more exciting and engaging sporting event than that. It had everything one could ever want, and they didn't need to have luxury boxes to watch it in, and they didn't need to have, you know, corporate. I mean, it had what sports is supposed to have. Now, that's not limited just to soccer. When a year ago, not this last year was at the Rose Bowl, a year ago before that, went to see the SC UCLA game at the Coliseum. It was fabulous. It was the same Coliseum without the hundreds of millions of dollars. It was totally filled up. And of course, UCLA won. It was really great. But the point is that what it doesn't have is not what our constituents need. What it doesn't have is what a very, very few select people who have a lot of money want to have. And fine, let them have it. Just let them pay for their own. Ruth, people are actually wanting to have public subsidy, some more overtly than others, but believe me, they're out there right now. First of all, this line of that 150 million was okay, and we're not going to give any more. Since when is 150 million okay to start with? I mean, that is something that people almost began to repeat as a mantra, as a given, when nobody really had to say whether they want to give 150, whether it's state money or city money. $150 million is a lot of money. And all of a sudden the argument became more. Well, no one ever asked me if, are you? I think if you wanted to pay 150 to start with. Secondly, in fact, they are, including Mark and others, seeking ways now to come up with more, whether it is a use of tax revenues to pay off indebtedness, whether it's the incurrence of city money to, for example, site prepare and take down the sports arenas. They are, in fact, negotiating for that this very day. And what they have to know is exactly what Ms. Chick just said. They have to know that whatever they come up with, that we're not going to approve that short of a vote of the public. And that's why I think it really is important to take this stand now. I understand the issue of the courtesy. I know Hal was really upset with me when I didn't on the neighborhood counseling. Now we have the same thing on this. It's just because I've talked to Mr. Ridley Thomas so many times. I know what his view is on this. And I don't agree with it, and it doesn't take him to be here for me to tell him what I already told him, is that I don't want to spend money on it, period, Mark, whether you want to or not, because I don't think it'll produce the benefits you do. And that's not like talking behind his back or anything like that. It's like we have talked about this plenty. And I'm still very fond of him, and we're still very close, but I don't agree with him on this issue. So I'm prepared to make my position today. If not, I'll change my excuse and come in Wednesday when I wasn't supposed to be here to do it again next Wednesday. But, you know, I don't see this as something, spending the money or not, for Mark. I mean, I really see it as to whether we think it's right or wrong, period.
Mr. Holden? Oh, Mr. Holden, it's shocking to hear him cut off debate. But he did cut off debate. There was no one else wants to be heard, so all right, we have Ms. Sikowski's motion to continue until
The 18th.
The 18th? All right, prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
8 ayes, 6 noes.
All right. That is continued. Next item.
There's a request that item number 49 be continued until Friday, the 13th.
If there's no objections, that will be continued. Next item.
Items number 48 and 49, excuse me, item number 48 is a closed session item, so now is the time for public comment.
Okay, we have Theolopoulos Hodges wants to be heard.
Hello. To the City Council, I'm a resident in Mark Ridley Thomas's district. There is a building that is Schaefer's department store that is vacant and needs to be torn down. And there's other chain of buildings there, except for the bakery, that need to be torn down. And I want it to be torn down because it has rats and is burnt up. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you notify Mr. Ridley Thomas's office?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Mort Allen?
My name is Mort Allen, 12528 Ventura Boulevard, Studio City. I promise to make this my last visit here on this matter. I just wanted to clarify a couple things. I thought it was terribly rude. I had the president of a $22 billion company in Los Angeles, Eller Media here, and some of the comments that were made about his company here and things were really deceitful, and I just want to say that I think that the way this whole thing was handled was really bad, and I just want to make a couple of comments on his behalf that were said, and the first of which is Eller Media does have the contract in Seal Beach, which Mr. Gayton gave to him. They are the company there. They're in 80% of the communities, and all they wanted was a chance to offer the city some money, and there's a lot of issues in here that are that were said that were just unbelievable. They were asked, a comment was made why they got kicked out of Huntington Beach. Well, they were paying 25%, and Huntington Beach got 30% from this other company, and we were told here that 20% is the most. Joel was right when he said that most cities are paying close to 30% on the shelters, and I think that when Chris Westhoff said that he's been handling it since 1980, and I called a very close friend of mine, John Haggerty, that used to be your deputy here, and John says he handled every one of the contracts till 1993, and the worst thing was a package of documents was sent out to all your offices that the public did not know about, stating the first contract was for 20 years, and it was all untruthful. So all I'm saying is the issue is beyond this. I will tell you that most of you know about the 1996 federal consent decree between the MTA and Bus Riders Union. Well, there's about $10 million that's missing of money that was given for bus shelters in LA, and I feel that this should be reopened. I have no personal interest other than we wanted to get bus shelters on Ventura Boulevard, new ones, because the original contract was for 10 years, life of them, and we are now going, we are told that we can go through the BIDs as corporations, and that they can contract for the shelters. And the only thing I ask of you is that before this ordinance is signed, you review it. The last point is, I spoke to the Justice Department, which I'm sure you guys did, and they're going to have to sell this contract. And the value is about $40 million because right now, CBS owns the transit, all the contracts on the buses in LA. They own 14 radio stations, including all the drive time stations, KFWB and KNX. They own 58% of the billboards in LA. And so this contract's going to be sold now, and they're going to make about $30 or $40 million selling it. And I do think that we should get more than the $1,300, which they already have, and the offer's still on the table, which all of you have. And I'd like to see it somehow reconsidered, or at least go through the facts. And the last thing, if I can just say one last thing, I discussed this with Eller because it was in the Wall Street Journal. Do any of you know how much rent they are getting on billboards in LA now? The billboard at the Howard Hughes Parkway and the 405 freeway is bringing in $60,000 a month. The billboards on Ventura Boulevard are bringing in $10,000 a month, and almost every other city is charging a tax of at least 10% on the billboards. And you're missing millions and millions of dollars, which Eller has offered to pay on the billboards. Okay? That's it.
Leonard Shapiro.
Mr. President and council people, I want to echo some of the information that Mr. Allen just gave you. One of them, I think, is people on the city council and in the city don't understand what's happening with these bus shelters. In 1978, somebody came up with a great idea that people waiting for buses in the heat, in the rain, in the cold, are entitled to some protection. Great idea. And they thought it was a great idea, and they started the ball rolling with 1,250 shelters. Now, it's still a good idea, and all we got is 900 shelters. And the city council sat down and just voted to give that company that was responsible, they were responsible even though if they sold that company to somebody else, who sold it to somebody else, who sold it to somebody else. They were original company was responsible, and the city council sat by and gave them a 4-year extension to build 400 shelters. You don't need 400 shelters, you need 9,000. There's 9,000 bus stops. Every one of the 9,000 need the shelter. You said this in the material that you distributed to the public. You need 9,000. You were going to get 2,500 at once. 5 years later, 4,500, then 6,500, then 9,000. And something happened, and you only got 944 of basically ruined shelters that have to be repaired. And you don't seem to understand what's happening here, or you don't seem to care what's happening. When an outfit like Eller comes in there and says, we got real money, we'll give you a certified check for $10.8 million, you don't even discuss it. Somebody says, you have to give this,
all right,
you have to give this extension. Well, you didn't have to give this extension.
Thank you, Mr.
And that's the
Shapiro.
situation right now. Right now, you don't care
Mr.
what happens to the bus shelters.
Richard
Mr.
Robinson.
President. Richard, go ahead. Give me some of the time he cut off me.
Don't hit him again, Mr. Ferraro. Mr. President, members of council, Councilperson Joel Wax, Chief Deputy Greg Nelson, is the best choice that you and Mayor Reardon can make for General Manager of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. A process which he began 6 years ago when he should have become Mayor Wax. Thank you.
Gracie Allen.
It is Gracie Taylor Gray, and I'm here in Los Angeles, California. I have been here all of the time. I was passing by this building last week, and I happened to look up while speaking to the Creator up above, and I saw a sign, and that sign says, Senior Citizens, Stop Senior Citizen Abuse. Go get them, Gracie. I was told that I was given a Section 8 certificate. Yes, I was there at the building when the inspector came out. But I would like to let you all know that Section 8 certificate was given to 2 males. I have nothing to do with homosexuality because I have it in my family. If you remember me telling you about my granddaughters becoming raped children, they were supposed to have got counseling, they never did. One had a baby, one became gay. The thing about it is God said he's the way, the truth, and the light. And no man comes to God except through him. I'm not a city councilman. What are they doing into my apartment? I would like to read to you 2 Corinthians chapter 13. Final warnings, I don't have my teeth in, and greetings. This is now the 3rd time that I'm coming to you. Any accusation must be upheld by the evidence of 2 or more witnesses. As the scripture said, I want to tell those of you who have sinned in the past and all the others, I said it is better during my 2nd visit. It also says that God will punish the very ones who uphold judgment. Judgment is in this book right here. I don't care which way you turn it, it is in this book. I have here, you said that you all would like to hear things pertaining to the city and not the government. Now this is evidence. Here is a United States symbol of the White House, to Gracie Gray, United States District Court. It is from Victor Jeffers, okay? Now, here I have 3 or 4 judges, United States Court judges. Not, like the one there, the one there in Washington, D.C., who made sure that he put something on his arm so they wouldn't, discredit him as being a little kangaroo
Gracie,
judge.
Gracie.
Excuse me. Second marriage,
Would you
according to
bring-
a copy of marriage license contained in the defendant Barron Gray file, he married Linda J. Wilson. And according to him, this marriage was never legal because he had not obtained a divorce from his first wife, Gracie. Palmer relationship, Dahlia Mills. Now, these people is the one that you all gave Section 8 certificate to. These people is the one that you all gave her to. You all haven't gave me anything. Now, another thing. Excuse me, sir. You are not going to stop me from talking now. Count 1, distribution cocaine. Count 2, illegal alien possession of a firearm. Winona County Jail. And this is Barrington Anthony Gray. And D. Brooke Bartlett gave him 11 years. But here's one where they put him on American Airlines. And when he was put on American Airlines, they say he never got to Jamaica. This is Southern District Court of New York City. Now, John S. Martin, another district court judge, have gave him some time. Don't say that I'm with that bastard, okay? Listen, I work for the city, I work for the county, I work for the state. I used to wash dishes. 13 years of age. My mom died when I was 7. Nobody gives me and my children anything.
Gray, thank
okay?
you. Your time is up.
Yes, but I
Thank
don't want
you.
you all to get anything wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, the next item,
Motions for posting and referral.
there's no objection, unanimous vote.
Council members' request from excuse from council attendance. Councilmember Wax has requested excuse on August 17th and September 8th and 15th for personal business. This meets policy.
Unanimous vote. Next item.
Closed session items.
We're going to go into executive session, so everyone not involved with the executive session, please leave the council chamber. We're back in open session. What do we have before us?
Item number 48, authorize city attorney to expend $525,000 in settlement of case.
All right, prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith on that.
Thank you.
Next item,
The desk is clear.
the desk is clear. Do we have any adjourning motions? Would everyone please stand? Mr. Savornich?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Members of the council, I would like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Joseph Joe Grassi, who passed away recently. He was born May 29th, 1924 in San Pedro and was a lifetime resident. He belonged to the San Pedro High Booster Club, the Garden Club, and was a retiree of ILWU Local 13. He was a longshoreman for 24 years. He is survived by his wife Helen, a son David, daughter Nancy, and he was a member and volunteer of the San Pedro Garden Club and also a volunteer for the Willenberg Special Education Support Group for the past 12 years. Jackie.
Yes, members of the council, I have a adjourning motion also, but I would like to, if the council will permit, I'd like to bring in a special, as you know, or some of you know, there was a shooting by 2 gunmen armed with a automatic Uzi weapon in Granada Hills today at the Jewish Community Center. The last report I had were that 5 children were wounded and a couple of adults. One was a teenager and one was a woman of the adults. As early reports that they had a suspect in custody is incorrect, was not deemed to be the shooters. I would like to verbally now, and they'll bring the motion in, ask that a $25,000 reward be offered by the City of Los Angeles to anybody who gives us information that leads to the arrest, apprehension, arrest, and conviction of the parties responsible for this. And I would ask your indulgence to act on this today.
Unanimous.
Okay. Also,
Adjourn in their memory.
yeah, well, hopefully they'll survive. So far, there are no fatalities, but there are several of them in critical condition. I would ask that we adjourn in memory of Leroy Vinegar, who was a noted jazz bassist in the Los Angeles area during my earlier days and era, and he was a great musician who played with Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, and many of the top jazz people in our country, and I remember enjoying him immensely. He passed away this past week.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Lupe Valderrama. She passed away July 24th, and she was 81 years old. Mrs. Valderrama was a great mother and a loving person. One of her sons is Fred Valderrama. He's a city councilman in Monterey Park. Another one of her sons was an LAPD officer, a detective. Another one of her sons is an attorney that I personally know and are friends of mine. But she's survived by 9 sons, 3 daughters, and she had 32 grandchildren and 40 great-grandchildren. And she was a great woman. She raised all her kids well and always welcomed us into her home.
John, I have one more.
I have one more, John.
Mr. Pacheco?
Council members, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Antonio Roman. He passed away on Sunday, August 8th at 1:30. Antonio is a 17-year-old who had just moved to Bow Heights from the city of Stockton several months ago. He was walking with his grandmother's to his grandmother's home to a neighbor's store when he was met by gunfire. The cause was mistaken identity. Antonio is survived by his father, Antonio Roman Sr., his mother, Maria Campos, his maternal grandmother, Rita Campos, his paternal grandmother, Rosario Roman, his brothers, Cesar Roman and Andrew Quintero, and his sister, Jasmine Quintero.
Mr. Wax?
I'd like the council to adjourn the memory of Bill Robertson, who's a very long-time prominent businessman in North Hollywood and Studio City, and I'll give the clerk the praise. Not the Bill Robertson.
I'd like that. I'm sorry?
I was saying it was not that it was a different Bill Robertson than Ms. Walters was thinking.
He also
Yes,
has
the-
a
in
business in
Hollywood as well, yes.
Mr. Burnson?
Yes, I had one more. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Emily Bogan, who was a friend of and former employer of my wife in a travel agency. She passed away a couple weeks ago. We just heard about it. She's survived by her husband Sid and 3 children. They lived in Northridge.
Call the roll. We did, unanimous. The council is adjourned.